It has been having these issues here.
All right, thank you, Jared. We will call the meeting to order at 5:31. First item on the agenda is roll call.
Right, Mike Steinel,
Here.
Sue Springman, absent, Chris Zellner,
Here.
Kristen Runge,
Here.
Joe Zitzelberger, absent, Brian Wallace,
Here.
Melissa Hunt.
Here. All right, next item on the order or on the agenda is minutes. Do we have any corrections or changes to the minutes? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next item up is public comment. We have a number of items on the agenda that I think audience members might be interested in commenting on. We do not have a public hearing tonight, so if there is something on the agenda you would like to comment on, now would be the time to make the comment. When we get to those items on the agenda, we won't be able to take comments from the public. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Lauren. Did we get any sheets today?
Yep, I did. Mike Eastman, 509 8th Street.
Yes, yeah, go to the podium and press the button so that the little light turns green. And that means that the people at home listening online can hear you.
Okay, very good. My name is Mike Eastman. I live at the corner of 8th and Klein, which is exactly 5 blocks from here. And I'm here to address the first item on your agenda, which is the Wanakee Valley Senior Living Center improvements. And I had sent out to the board, or to the commission, excuse me, a write-up that I had done about concerns of the neighbors in that area with the property in general, and then specifically some of the concerns with a construction project of the size that we're talking about. I'd like to remind everybody here that even though the property is zoned now residential, one of the residential zonings, it's still a commercial property. Joe and I have talked about that. Joe from Trilogy. It is a excuse me. Joe from Trilogy, and it is a commercial property. There's a lot of commercial activity at that property. So it's in a residential area, which is primarily single family residential. So we want to keep that in mind as we make improvements to that project, and especially about the reconstruction of that facility. I don't want to go through all the things that were in my list. I was hoping that we could have a neighborhood meeting with a representative from the village, okay, to talk about some of the concerns the neighbors have with the project and with that particular facility, mainly because some of the concerns with the facility are really under the control of the Wanakee Village and not really under control of Trilogy or the property owners or the property managers. So I do want to thank Lauren for helping us at least get initially started with the neighbors for some emails and getting us together and letting people know when these meetings occur. I'd also like to thank Katie, Joe, and Jenny for a quick impromptu meeting before this meeting. So we met for an hour. We went through a lot of concerns that we had with the property. And I believe a lot of those are going to be addressed, which is very nice. From what I can see from the project plan and from descriptions that we got from the architecture team, the property itself will look much better. The main concern I think a lot of neighbors have with that facility is at the corner of 8th and Klein, that northwest parking lot is overloaded with activity. Okay, and the activities I listed in here of all the things that occur in that corner. I think about 80% of those items probably are going to be addressed with this reconstruction. So the one thing I want to stress to the Planning Commission and to the village board when they're going to meet about this is that property is overloaded with traffic already. My concern is how they're going to handle the construction traffic for that property. If anybody that lived near where the middle school rebuild was, That is a much larger property, and you can see how much traffic is generated by a construction project. So that property is going to have a lot of trouble with just even staging equipment and keeping it out of the neighborhoods and not on the streets. So we'd like the village to think about that and how that is going to be controlled. And mainly because the neighbors in that area have been impacted in the past with a construction project at that facility. And things like leaf pickup, brush removal, those things weren't allowed to be, or weren't able to be taken care of because vehicles were in the way.
All right, thank you. I do need to let you know your time has
Okay.
expired. We did get your letter, though.
Yep.
Thank you very much for that.
Yep.
I think we will keep those that were in the letter in mind as well
Perfect.
as your remarks today.
Yep,
So I
thank you.
appreciate you coming
And
up
again, I
today.
appreciate the input that we got from the parties involved.
Good. Thank you very much
You're
for
welcome.
coming out tonight. Yeah. Next up,
That's the only form I have, unless anyone else would like to fill one out.
do we have anyone online that would like to speak? So, all right.
Sorry. Oh, yes.
Esmer has raised her hand.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, this is Shyla Tusmer. Can you hear me okay?
We can, yes.
Okay, sorry. I apologize. I wasn't able to make it. I'm out of town, but I definitely wanted to join in on this meeting because I have already voiced concerns and have spoken with Joe from Trilogy, who's helping to manage this project. I don't have anything formally prepared. I'm kind of quickly joining this meeting because I just did want to let everybody know on the Planning Commission that I still do have concerns of my own. I live at 706 Country Air Court, which is a property that directly borders the Senior Valley Living facility on the north side, and will be a property that could be very much impacted by this construction project, not only in the ways that Mike had just stated with noise. So that certainly will be very impactful to me. But there is a sidewalk that is going to be planned for construction on that north side through a grassy area. That's kind of been an alleyway for foot traffic. My biggest concern here for impact to my property, and then a potential fence that's going in. I do realize that there was a meeting that one of my neighbors informed me about ahead of this meeting that happened very impromptu. Right now, I just have concerns about the communication with all of this. Things kind of seem to be coming at us from all angles, and they're very unplanned, and there's just not a lot of communication. I would like to kind of know better about what things were discussed for this impromptu meeting, what the plans are for the fence, for the sidewalk, that kind of stuff. And I just don't know at this point how to get more involved and to be on the same page with everybody. Other than those things, I really don't know what else to say other than I just don't feel like we're ready as a neighborhood. I would really very much like to still meet, like Mike had suggested, with the people that are responsible for planning this project. If there's any way that we could do a neighborhood meeting, I think that'd be very beneficial for the neighbors that are most impacted.
All right. Thank you, Shyla. We appreciate it. All right. And we have another, do we have another hand? Nope. All right. Would anybody else like to speak in the audience? If you don't mind taking the podium.
Well, I just wanted to ask if we can send information to you, additional information to you about what our questions are.
Yes, yes.
So before you guys make a decision.
Well, we're required, we've got a decision on the agenda tonight. Why don't you go up to the podium? And I am limited in the questions that I can answer during public comment period. But I can say that if you are interested in sending us information, we always read the information. We are on the agenda tonight for, let's see here, discuss and take action on a specific implementation plan. So whether or not it would affect our decision tonight is questionable if we don't have the information in hand already.
Okay, well, and it was very helpful talking to the architect and the civil engineer, and they gave information. My concern, unlike Mike's, on his noise on A Street, I live on Arbor Court, and the water from the drainage comes up onto my lawn. And when they changed that pipe over 10 years ago or something, we questioned, was it going to be big enough, this storm sewer, was it going to be big enough to take care of it? Oh yeah, 100-year rain it'll take care of. Well, we all know that those 100-year rains have come already, and with global warming, they're going to come more. The other day, last week when it rained, I took a picture and it was up to the fence already at the beginning of the rain. So the pipe that they have in there now, I don't think it's going to be adequate to take the water away. Although they did say they're going to make some drainage ditches. She said whatever it is. Whatever drainage ditches. Thank you. Water retention ponds. And hopefully that will do it. But again, that's not the drainage, the pipe, the sewer pipe is not part of the nursing home or this trilogy portion. It's part of the village's portion to take care of that.
All right. Thank you. And one thing, I'm out of order in that I didn't ask you for your name and your address. We state.
Jane Doe. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
Jean Ziegler, 1 Arbor Court.
Thank you. All right. And anything else?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate you bringing that concern to our attention. Anyone else? And anyone else online? All right. Seeing none, we can close public comment for the evening and move on to business items. And business item 1 is discuss and take action on a specific implementation plan for Wanakee Senior Living at 801 South Klein Drive. And this is for final action by the Plan Commission. So to you, Lauren.
All right. So this is a specific implementation plan for the Wanakee Senior Living Project, 801 South Klein. This site was rezoned recently to planned unit development, PUD. So that came to the Plan Commission and ultimately was approved by the village board. So because it's now PUD instead of a site plan review, we're doing a specific implementation plan review, but it's a very similar process. So the project is mainly a remodel of the existing building. So most of the work is actually happening interior to the building, but there are some items as part of this project that are subject to a site plan review from the Plan Commission. So I have a number of them listed here. They plan to do a parking lot reconfiguration. They're adding new walking paths. There's a new trash enclosure. They have some new lighting. The fence was mentioned. There will be a new fence constructed on the northern side of the property between the property and the northern residences, as well as some new landscaping as part of the project. So I think you've seen this before, but this is kind of a very zoomed out version of the site plan itself. As you can see, there's no additions to the buildings, but there are some reconfigurations inside with these kind of courtyard areas, as well as the parking lot will look a little bit different than what it currently looks like. And as I said before, also some new walking paths throughout the campus. And so I also included kind of zoomed in versions of the 4 quadrants that were included in the site plan so you can better see exactly what's going on here. The major change in this southwest quadrant is this kind of entrance area over here. It's kind of a drop-off area for the facility, as well as some additional walking paths. And then the southeast area, the parking lot, I think, has changed a little bit, and there's a stormwater management area here in the middle, as well as additional walking paths. And then in the northeast section, the parking lot is reconfigured again. Currently, it's kind of one block. Now it has a stormwater management area in the middle of those 2 parking areas, as well as a kind of pedestrian connection from the development up to walking paths, including this northern sidewalk that was mentioned by some of the public comments here. That will be in that does not exist currently, and so that would be an addition as part of the project. And then the northwest section of the site plan, not a whole lot of difference other than, again, that sidewalk to the north. I'll also add that they are doing quite a few exterior improvements to the building. They're adding all new siding to the building. I don't know if they're doing the roof or not. You're redoing the roof as well. So it'll be a nice enhancement to the building as well. So here's some more exterior elevations for the project. And then in my comments in my staff memo, I mentioned that I didn't have the photometrics at the time of the packet. I do have them now. They look good. So they're meeting the foot candle requirement for the property boundary, which is 0.4, as well as the proposed light poles are within the height restriction, which is 18 feet and that's a requirement adjacent to a residential neighborhood. So staff think that the photometrics look good to go. So the remaining planning comments on this item, so the northern section of the property, there are some overhead electricity lines, and so it's part of an ATC easement. We're still awaiting approval from ATC for some of the landscaping work that they have proposed, as well as the sidewalk. They have gotten approval for the new fence that's going in, but they're working through some additional details with the landscaping and sidewalk. So we'd want that approval before final sign off for their building permit. As well as we would like to see a CSM come back to combine the two parcels on the campus. That was discussed back when we were talking about the rezoning of PUD. It makes sense for this property. They've already prepared the CSM and submitted it to us, so that will come at a future meeting. But we do want the approval to be subject to that CSM approval. And then they did note to me actually today that they will need to move where exactly the trash enclosure goes. It's currently in the ATC easement, and they got word from ATC that they can't have it there. So I think staff can approve that with, working with the developer on that piece if the Plan Commission is comfortable with that. And then the only engineering comment is that we will need a stormwater maintenance agreement signed and recorded for this property. They've already submitted stormwater management plans, and those have all been approved by the village engineer for meeting village standards. So staff recommend approval of this SIP conditioned upon resolution of those remaining planning and engineering comments.
All right, thank you. And would you guys like to say anything? Yeah, all right, feel free to take the podium.
So, hi, I'm Jenny Decken. I'm from Erdman. We're the architecture and engineering company that's been working with Trilogy for about the last year to try to plan out this multi-phased reconstruction of the building. Also included here, we've got Joe from Trilogy and Katie from Parkitecture, the civil and landscape team. So if you've got any questions, they're here as well to speak. So I just wanted to point out some of the small changes that have happened since when we were here with the initial Plan Commission meeting. We have made the adjustment along the north property line. That was based on quite a few conversations with neighbors with concerns for privacy. So that is a change. It is running now, 6-foot-high fence is running all along the north property line to help give them some more privacy between the two buildings and also with the new sidewalk going in. We've also changed the location of the generator on the site. That used to be up in the northeast corner, kind of near the trash enclosure area. We're going to move that more centrally to the east property line, and then also change it over from a diesel to a natural gas. That was in response to some of the comments we received about noise complaints, fumes complaints. So updating the generator to a brand new natural gas generator will help with some of the noise and that location as well. Let's see, the other big change, like we mentioned, was the site lighting. So right now, the site lighting that you see out on the site has been kind of cobbled together through the years as the building additions have gone up. So we are proposing to remove all of the site lighting that's on site right now and replace it with completely all new site lighting poles. So that should help with some of the cutoff and light spill that the neighbors may be experiencing right now.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Trilogy, would you like to say anything? No? Yeah. All right.
Yes. Katie, do you want to come speak
Yeah,
at all
sure.
to the stormwater?
So my name is Katie McDonald with Parkitecture. I'm the civil engineer on this project. And just again, as we've had some comments that have come up related to, I guess, both the overall site plan and specifically to the stormwater management component of it. In general, the site layout will remain relatively similar to existing. Parking in general remains in the same general areas. I would say the biggest change to the parking is in the northeastern quadrant, what is currently just a single contiguous piece of asphalt. We are expanding a little bit, we're gaining some area where some parts of the building are being taken down. And that gives us the opportunity to add this large new stormwater management bioretention basin in the middle of it. It will also help soften the site. So we are adding, from a stormwater management component, a new bioretention basin into the northeast quadrant. Again, that was just a sea of asphalt before. The southeast parking, we are also adding a new stormwater bioretention basin into the existing green space between that parking area and the perimeter Manor Drive. And then we are proposing to expand the existing detention pond that is in the southeast corner. On this particular sheet, yep, it's just kind of the big open area. So we are expanding that to the limits basically of what that site will physically allow. We, as Lauren had mentioned, have had our stormwater management plan reviewed by the village engineer. It is designed to meet and or exceed all local and state code requirements. And we will have a stormwater management agreement put together, reviewed by all of these agencies, approved and recorded with Dane County prior to construction beginning.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. And anyone else want to talk about, you want to give an overview of kind of the whole project? No? Okay. Great. All right. Want to make sure you've got the opportunity. All right. So with that, let's open it up to the Plan Commission. What questions do we have? Melissa, do you want to start?
Sure, thank you. And thank you for the questions and information that you provided. I think this was very thorough and hopefully you all received the answers you were looking for. I believe I have almost everything. The only question that I had, and you covered that the fence was approved. I tried looking and there were a lot of sheets. If the landscaping isn't approved, do they meet all their point? I mean, I know it's SIP, so is there a place they can be moved, I guess, if, I know ATC is a little bit more particular about plants and bushes, trees especially.
Yes, yeah, they currently meet the points, and I'm sure we can work with them if they need to move the landscaping to get the point needed.
So that would be my only big concern, is that with the fence being approved, I know they're better about those things. I know they get a little weird about trees, so if those need to be moved. Otherwise, I think everything looked good. Dane County standards, especially in our standards here in the village for stormwater, are wonderful. Relatively speaking, depending on which side you're on. So if there's issues on the site, anything that's going to be done, I guess my 2 cents is going to be better than the condition it was in. And it sounds like the issues that you're having, I don't want to negate, you are probably not relevant. The site's going to be in better shape than it was in. That's the requirements. So from that standard, that I don't have any major concerns or issues. And it sounds like maybe there's some other conversations. I don't want to negate your comments. I just don't think it's relevant for this. And so I do think I'm comfortable with approving everything as presented. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Melissa. Brian?
No questions, really more just comments. I think excited to see the upgrade to the facility. There were some comments about noise. I think that's a short-term issue while that's going on. And plus it sounded like, there's some exterior stuff, but a lot of interior stuff, which is going to be minimal impact, I think, on noise. Stormwater, it's nice to see they're doing some stormwater. Is there any porous pavement going down, or is it just all infiltration? Okay. For the village's perspective, if there's an issue with stormwater drainage through pipes, that's something we should probably look at in public works. If it's been an issue with the site, it sounds like they're making some efforts to try to improve that, but maybe it's something we want to look at going forward. And then the other comment that I heard was about parking during construction. I would just, hopefully the contractor or contractors can find a spot on site to minimize the impact to the streets for parking, trailers, equipment, whatever. Hopefully you can find a spot. I'm sure it's a crowded parking lot, but find a way to keep it off the street so it doesn't impact the neighbors.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Chris?
Thank you. For as far as parking goes, do we know how many stalls we have currently? Or
Yeah, so
if it's
there's
going to change?
currently 114 stalls. We're actually reducing down to 110 stalls. But we're also reducing the overall number of skilled nursing units by 29. So that's in line with the number of staff who would have been, staff and visitors needing those skilled nursing stalls. So yeah, we're right around the same amount that there is right now. It's definitely sufficient for the parking needs. The residents here do not have a high demand for on-site parking. And even some of the things like the villas at the south of the property, they all have their own private garage stall and stall on their drive space as well.
So at a peak shift, what would you say your employee count is at that
They're
time?
around 50 at their peak shift. So that's when all the kitchen staff and everybody's on site.
Okay. And where I'm going with this is really the concern of the movement and traffic and coming in from guests, cutting through, any of those things. And is there anything we're really doing to address that concern from the neighbors?
There are definitely some improvements that we are making to the overall, I guess, traffic movement through the site. Manor Drive itself is currently only 24 or 20 feet wide. So we're actually proposing to expand that main pathway through the site to 24 feet wide, just so it gets the full width of two-way traffic through there. The parking on the existing site is pretty well centralized in 3 sections. We have the existing parking lot that is in the southeast corner, though that will remain very similar to existing, as will the main parking lot in the southeast quadrant. Northeast quadrant, we're actually reducing the number of parking stalls that are in that location, because again, we're kind of shifting around where some of the interior building uses are. So it's going to be a more even spread of staff needs and where the kitchen is in the proposed building. That's going to shift some of the issues with existing deliveries and other truck traffic that currently all is kind of centralized up in the northeast quadrant and is going to spread it out down into the southeast quadrant. So more traffic will be using Holiday Drive instead of using the residential neighborhood. We are also, the main drop off is going to be in the southeast quadrant again, and it's going to be, I'm going to point at the screen right about here. So semi-traffic is planned to pull through that area of the parking lot instead of using the current entry up in the northeast corner. So we've spread some additional parking out. Jenny mentioned that the new main visitor entrance is going to be down along the south edge. So we have added additional parking that did not previously exist along Manor Drive, just again, because we're spreading the activities out across the site.
Thank you. Then the other question I had was you mentioned that you're going to meet or exceed all the state and local requirements for the water aspect of it. I would like you to give the assurance to the neighbors that if there is a problem a year from now from the design, that you will fix it.
Let me address it. Legitimate concern. So, good evening. My name is Joe Naraki with Trilogy Health, and I'm the Director of Development. So we had a meeting, not necessarily specific to the stormwater management, and I believe it's Jean. Jean was the neighbor that has a very legitimate concern about where she resides and what the existing conditions are like there. Unfortunately, there's never been any enforcement on this 8+ acre parcel with regards to stormwater management. We're taking on that responsibility. When we bought the facility 2+ years ago, we want to trilogize this, not only from a management of an operations piece, but also how we manage our sites. We have the capacity and we have the facilities team to manage that type of stormwater pond, and agreeing to a maintenance agreement with the county is not a problem. Within that agreement are going to be enforcement triggers, if you will, okay? But be rest assured, and I mentioned this to Jean and I mentioned this to Mike also, They have my business card. They have every right to send to me any of previous concerns, and I'll get in front of that with our operations folks. But they have my word that this agreement that we're going to sign with Dane County, we will manage properly, and we have to. And most likely we'll probably have a performance bond tied into that. So I hope that answers your question. It's not specific to my engineer or to my architect, but it's to Trilogy Health. I know your question's directed to Trilogy Health, that we will own it, operate it, maintain it per the agreement that we're going to sign. And if we fail, and I mentioned this to Mike and Jean and a couple of other neighbors tonight, call the zoning enforcement officer at the Village of Wanakee if we're not doing something right after this remodel's done. It's okay if we're not doing something that we made a commitment to a year and a half before. But we got to let it also be final graded and the lawn to be matured, et cetera, and so forth. But that's a commitment I can make. Hopefully
Thank
that
you.
answers your
Yeah,
question.
that's absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
All right, Mike.
Just one thing on the parking. I'm not sure who would be right to answer this, but is there any reason, we have the park right across the street, that if there's construction traffic, that they could park in there and that wouldn't cause any street problems? Is there any reason why they couldn't park in the parking lot for that during the day?
I would guess that it probably has more to do with kids and families navigating that parking lot and not maybe wanting some construction equipment to be there. I don't know, Lauren, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would want to run that by Bill probably.
Mhm.
I know we've had to tell Trilogy before that the employees couldn't park there. I'm not sure how you would feel on a temporary basis if we've done that before. That's definitely something I could look into.
Yeah, that's all I had beyond what everybody else has asked. Thank you.
Brian?
I was just gonna say, typically municipalities don't want construction equipment in their parking lots for parks because those parking lots are intended to serve the people who are going to be using the parks and not other people, like Lauren had said regarding employees. So, I mean, at the end of the day, whether it's Wanakee or DeForest or Madison or wherever, when there's construction, there's going to be a little bit of a hiccup as it relates to traffic and parking. And there's just no way to get around that except to not have any growth, which obviously is not something municipalities want. So there's going to be some hiccups, but then it'll be over when the construction's done.
All right, for sure. How long is the construction period roughly?
So we will get a final schedule when we bring a GC on board. I would anticipate this to be around 18 months in total.
Excellent. All right, so 18 months in total. And when we're done, do you mind giving us just a 2-second overview of what the general changes to the building are going to be? What are the differences in the beds or the
Oh,
capacity for the building?
Sure. So, so right now, the main change we're proposing to make is to the skilled nursing wing. So those are the wings of the building that were built sometime between 1974 and 1991. They're the oldest areas of the building. Many of them happen within the internal portion of the building. There's a couple of courtyards that exist right now. So those are actually the ones we're planning to take down. The part that you see off of the Klein Drive parking lot too, that's going to undergo probably the most visible difference. What you see along Holiday and the north end of the building, those are just getting a facelift. So we're not really changing the overall massing of the building, but we do want everything to look like it was done and refreshed all at one time. So yeah, we'll be doing new roofing, a lot of trim paint, siding updates. We're trying to maintain most of the existing masonry on the building, except for some of the areas that have seen damage over the years will have to be replaced. So yeah, mostly what you're going to see when you visit the project when it's finished won't look like it's much different than what it is now, because most of it's a facelift. We are going to be changing along the Klein Drive entrance area. Right now, there's a major kitchen and dining facility for the skilled nursing. And the building is right now functioning off of 2 different kitchen areas. So our plan right away is to go in and replace this with one centralized kitchen, much more efficient. And then that'll serve both the assisted living, independent living, and skilled nursing zones. So the kitchen is probably the biggest change you're going to see because we're reducing the overall square footage of the building by around 9,000 to 10,000 square feet. So number of beds wise, we'll end up still supporting about 175 residents. So it is smaller than what their capacity is to date, but they haven't really been utilizing one of those entire wings right now. It's just not the efficient way to staff the building. And a lot of them are very out of date. So partly what we get here is going to be wings in the skilled nursing zone that have these great nodes in the middle where nursing staff can do their nursing, charting, and then also bring residents in for sitting spaces. So you'll have a lot more social opportunities once the renovation is done, rather than having to have people move really far distances from their unit that they live in to some of the social spaces in the building.
So better overall experience for residents.
Oh, much better.
Yeah,
Yes.
go ahead. Yes. Yep. Yeah, please do.
Thank you, Jen. So just for clarification on two things. Number one is I've spent 51 minutes with Shyla on the phone over the last 2 months, okay? And I recognize that she's a neighbor to the north, and I've been a neighbor in big developments like this too. My wife and I live in a condo, and we've seen it happen next door to us, and it's taken almost 3 years. We also met with a couple of the neighbors, impromptu as it may be. We were still able to meet with them today because I'm from out of state and I was able to get here in advance of today's meeting. So while I recognize that a couple of the neighbors to the north had, specifically two neighbors, had concerns with regards to the impact on their property, I made the commitment that we would put the fencing in place. We would fence along that whole north elevation, a brand new fence, and some of them have existing fencing and some don't. Some have. Shyla has I believe a little bit of her garden encroaching, and we talked about that. And I did break the news to her that she's probably going to lose about 3 to 4 feet of her garden, and she seemed to be fine with that. We're putting the fence in because, as we understand, there's already foot traffic that uses that grass. We were asked, and I believe Lauren had mentioned this early on in the project, to consider doing that, and that's an expense that we're willing to put forth and do. But it also comes with a risk to Trilogy Health, right? When you think about it, I mean, we're allowing people to walk on our private property in a skilled nursing facility setting. We are in the business of making sure the elders have a very comfortable life, and they're going to be seeing people also walking across that property. But it's the right thing to do. It's the community connectability piece, and we understand that. And therefore, we don't want the other parcel owners to understand that too. That's a good thing. The entrance, as you go on to Klein and 8th, legitimate concerns were brought up today. But we're not willing to fence off any other elevations. We're not going to do a full length fence on the east elevation. There's impact to the neighbors there during the course of construction. We recognize that. I'm willing to say that we'll put a construction temporary fence up, metal, and put a screen on that to prevent, to the best of our general contractor's ability, any, debris, any type of blowing materials, et cetera, and so forth, they can get captured by that temporary fence. I'm willing to do that along the east. And as you get down towards Jean's property there, as it turns the corner, and she, of course, has very legitimate concerns about the trash pile up in that quadrant, the leaves, et cetera, and so forth, we'll turn that corner and go along her property also with it, okay? But I also want to make sure that from a planning perspective and from a community connectability and from a beautification process, this is a great project. This is going to do wonders not only for the operations and the folks that we serve, but also beautify this neighborhood, we believe. And when this is all said and done, I think you all will agree. And I trust and I hope that the neighbors who reside adjacent will also agree. But it's going to take some time to get there. So thank you.
Great, thanks. We appreciate you taking the time to address some of the concerns. Do we have any other questions?
I'll make the motion to approve the SIP conditioned upon the resolution of the remaining planning and engineering comments.
I'll second. All right, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks for taking the time to be here tonight.
Thank
Yeah, I
you.
appreciate it. All right, and if you, for the neighbors that are here, anything else that you guys need, please feel free to email us and we'll get you the questions answered as soon as we can. All right, but we appreciate you coming tonight. Next up, page 38, discuss and take action on Heritage Hills 8th edition already. Wow. How'd that happen? Final plat for final action by the village board.
All
All right.
right.
Lauren?
So
and then-
this is phase 9 of the Heritage Hills subdivision. This next final plat includes 48 lots and 5 outlots. And outlot 41 will be developed as a large park in the Heritage Hills neighborhood. I've got some zoomed out plats here, but we can zoom in if you have specific questions. But here are the 2 pages of the plat that show the lot development as well as the large park outlot 41 as part of this. Couple planning comments, one being that when this comes to village board, it will need a development agreement as well, which we are working through with them currently. And just a minor comment that the dates should be updated to 2026. So staff do recommend approval of this final plat. And as Kristen mentioned, this would go to village board where they would approve the final plat and development agreement together.
All right, do you guys want to give us an overview? Awesome.
Good evening. My name is Dan Day from D'Onofrio Cacking Associates, representing Viridian Homes here this evening. Just here for phase 9, as you all say. How did we get here this fast, right? We've been here quite a bit, but again, we're developing 40 some lots. Excuse me, this year with this phase, a few on the north side of the park, along with more on the east side abutting Schumacher. The improvements this year will be the area here you see on the left-hand side, plus an area up on the north side, the area of the north side end of the park. We will not be connecting Brining in yet this year. That'll probably be a next year construction project to bring those 2 together. We are dedicating the full formal community park in the center though with this plat, so that will be formally dedicated. And we are planning on phasing in some of the improvements to the community park this year into next year, and getting that ready to go for the spring of 27 for full completion of the park. Also in this work is quite a bit of work on Schumacher. We're going to be proposing to do the south half of Schumacher improvements this year. Working out some details with the DOT and the connection onto Schumacher with the construction going on right now. So we got a big meeting tomorrow morning with the DOT right here to talk through some of those things and how that all ties together. Strand has been reviewing our phase 9 plan set, which we're just waiting some comments back from them. So we're working through the process, get with the development agreement and get this thing rolling here in the next couple months to be able to do this. This is the formal step to create the actual lots for the plat. And we'll work to record and, this probably in the next 30 to 60 days for the final plat, once the board approves the plat itself. There's really no changes to any of the lots that had been approved with the previous preliminary plat in the zoning. We did make a couple minor tweaks for a side lot line easement, but that was pretty minor, but nothing from a product has changed or number of lot counts or anything of that sort. I think that's about all I have. If you have any questions, Matt Brink here from Viridian Homes and Brian Munson from Vanderwall Associates, more related to the items 2 from now, but
Awesome.
anyway, that's what we have for right now.
Question before you sit, for the viewers at home who are not looking at the packet, how many lots total are we approving?
46.
6, excellent.
Thank you. I should have known that off the top of my head and I did not. I was going to start counting lots quick.
All
You don't want to see that.
right, with that, what questions do we have? Mike, can I start with you?
I have no questions at this time.
Chris?
Everything's looking really good. My only question is for the neighbors. Is there any dynamite work being done with this addition?
Well, we are in Wanakee, so yes, probably. There will certainly be on Brining as we go north in the park. There's be a little bit of a ledge of rock as we go up there. And then on that north road, there will be some too. It'll be minor compared to previous years, but we'll have all the same requirements that we have done in previous years. We'll be doing that again this year too.
I was going to say, and I'm sure you're going to do a fabulous job of making sure everybody's aware. Thank you.
Yes.
We've gotten better at that over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brian?
No questions. How many lots did you do last year?
We only did 20 some last year, correct? 18 lots, yes.
Okay, so an uptick, okay. that's
Yep,
good.
so
And
it's
then,
pretty good uptick. If you drive around out there, I was out there earlier today and there's not many lots left. So,
Good,
yeah,
all right, thank you.
going well.
Melissa? All right, I don't have anything else either. So with that, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, any discussion on the motion? Brian?
And by motion to approve, you guys mean recommend approval. to the village
Recommend
board.
approval to the, yeah.
All right, second? Still
Second.
good? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you very much for coming tonight. And next up then, item number 3, discuss and take action on a certified service, CSM at Breinig Boulevard and East Main for final action by the village board, page 43. Back to you, Lauren.
All right. So as you said, this is a CSM for the Breinig Boulevard and East Main Street. It's one lot and one outlot. The outlot is dedicated for stormwater management, sanitary sewer and trail purposes. Staff comments have been addressed. We recommend approval.
All right, any questions on the, oh, do you want to go ahead?
Me too, let's get it.
Do we have any questions on this? No? Melissa? Brian? Chris? Mike?
Nope.
Nope. All right. Then I will make a motion to recommend approval of the CSM to the village board.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Then next up, page 103, discuss and take action on wait, no, I skipped one, didn't I? Discuss and take action on specific implementation plan for Azure Memory Care at Breinig Boulevard and Main Street, page 48. And this is for final action by Plan Commission.
All right. This is a specific implementation plan for a new memory care and assisted living facility at this property. The site is identified as Farm Mixed Use Center in the Heritage Hills GDP. This assisted living facility is a permitted use in that district. Just a little bit more about the Farm Mixed Use Center designation. It was really designated for this property in particular because it is the Breinig family farm. It was identified in the GDP that it would feature farm-style architecture to highlight the heritage of the farm. And the developer is required to submit documentation to support infeasibility of adaptive reuse of the current farm buildings in order to demolish them. And the developer will provide a few presentation slides, and they'll include that as part of their presentation. So the site plan is here. You can see the memory care and assisted living facility is the kind of the eye on the site, as well as the parking that's included here and down here, as well as they have underground parking as well. And then kind of paths throughout the site. One thing I want to mention on this, as you all know, we do staff review. We do 2 rounds of staff review usually before site plans come. We had a special meeting with public safety professionals as well. So we had fire, EMS weigh in on this project as well, just given the nature of the clientele that they're serving. And so just wanted to mention that as well, an important part of this project. Also including the landscaping plan, they exceed our landscaping requirements. It's a really well landscaped site. I know Tim mentions in his memo that generally we like to see landscaping kind of help, I'm trying to think of the word, kind of cover parking spaces in general, but I'll note that the parking kind of up here to the northwest, there's a pretty steep grade change. So there is a few trees proposed, but really you're not gonna be able to see the parking from the road anyway. One other thing I wanted to note, I know in Tim's memo talked about moving landscaping on this kind of southeast corner here. The original proposal actually had it slightly on the stormwater facility. Since Tim made that comment, those have been moved out of the stormwater facility. So they're all on the property. Included some elevations for this project. If you've seen the Breinig family farm, you'll note that they're trying to pay homage to those buildings with the white kind of farm style here. And I'm sure they'll touch on that more in their presentation. Here's another elevation as well. And then they also included several renderings of what the facility will look like, especially with mature trees that will eventually grow as part of their landscaping plan. So included a few perspectives of the site. Here's the view from East Courtyard. And then I did want to mention the southeast corner. That was one item that Tim in his memo talked about. There's quite a bit of what they call like CMUs. There's quite a bit of kind of tall portion of this building that Tim had a little bit of aesthetic concern about. So I'll note his comment, and I think I'll get to that in the next slide. He brought up some suggestions for how to kind of address that. I think the developer prefers actually to just have landscaping be the kind of way that wall is buffered. And so I'll show you those examples, but I think in general, this is the hope of kind of what that southeast corner would look like. So yeah, so the remaining planning comments, as I mentioned, Tim had suggested a drop shadow, and I have a picture of that in the next slide. The developer would like to not do that for several reasons, and I'll let them explain that. But they really think once the landscaping matures that it'll, by not doing that, it will allow the top portion of the building, here I'll go back, the top portion of the building to kind of shine in the architecture instead of drawing people's attention towards the bottom of the building. And then the other comment was providing final details on a monument sign. And I believe they've already put together some information on that they'll share. For engineering comments, there are several remaining engineering items. I think all of them are fairly minor and can be worked through at a staff level. And so if the Plan Commission did want to approve this tonight, they could, with the condition that they'd work through those items with staff. And then here is the kind of, I already forgot, drop shadow effect on the CMU that Tim had proposed, just so you can see the difference between the two options. Staff recommend approval of this SIP conditioned upon resolution of those remaining comments.
All right. Thank you. And would you guys like to say anything? Yeah.
Little presentation prepared here, some slides. My name's Matt Lyons with the Zura Memory Care and Assisted Living.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Solomon Zarling, Development Associate with Three Leaf Partners. Good to be with you guys here tonight, and want to give a special thanks to Lauren. This process has been very collaborative and she's done a nice job, and really enjoyed working with staff. So I'll start with a couple high-level comments and then we'll drop right into our presentation. So I'm with Three Leaf. Three Leaf is a Milwaukee-based developer. We focus on mission-based development throughout Wisconsin and the Midwest, and that's addressing the housing need. Oftentimes that is thought of as, apartments or single-family homes, but senior living is an important use as part of that. And we have a relationship with Viridian, and they brought the site to us, and the first user that came to mind was Azura, and they're an excellent operator throughout Wisconsin. They have a lot of great facilities that Matt can speak to a little bit more. But what we're proposing tonight is 88 units of assisted living and memory care. And one of the things we looked at in the comprehensive plan is, I know you guys are going through that amendment right now, but it's addressing the housing need and providing housing options for various stages of life. When we did a market study, we found the demand for CBRF, so community-based residential facilities, in the Waunakee market area is around 2,300 individuals. That's the demand. And the available supply in the area is only about 600, and of that, about 90% of it's already occupied. So when you're thinking about individuals who are aging in place, they really don't have an option, or they're forced to go outside of the Waunakee area to find a senior living use. So we believe that this use and this design pays homage to the Breinig family and the history on the site with the architectural elements, and it also addresses a real demand that's needed in Waunakee itself for senior living. And as Lauren had mentioned, it's also an appropriate use within the general development plan as part of district number 8. So a couple other quick comments. We are, pending your guys' approval tonight, of course, would be construction. The goal would be to start this fall. We're working through a demolition plan right now with Viridian D'Onofrio, which will come later as part of a demolition permit. And then the goal would be just, as we start construction in the fall, it's about a 14-month construction timeframe. So delivering in, call it fall of next year. Those are my main comments. Matt, go ahead.
Thanks, Saul. Matt Lyons, Azura Living. So I wanted to give a little bit of an overview of Azura, a little bit different of an operator in senior living. Our mission is to transform the culture of care that comes from our owners. We're a smaller family-owned operator. Our owner, Josh McClellan, had family grandparents who operated nursing homes. He took that over, and multiple of his grandmothers actually passed away in memory care. And so seeing that personally, it really affected him. And he saw the need to change the way that care is given for memory care and assisted living. And so that's where our mission comes from, to transform the culture of care. We do that by living our core values, which you can see here, much different than a normal for-profit company's core values, with commitment, love, innovation, compassion, and kindness being those core values. We have a proprietary Mosaic program that facilitates our internal training, education for our team members, as well as the care that we provide for our residents. And then we also have a Mosaic Dreams program where we ask our residents what their best day would be, and then we try and make those dreams happen. So that's a really fun part of what we do, in letting our residents live out dreams and have purpose and something to look forward to. And so those, the pictures here are a myriad of those different dreams that have come true. From one actually timely, Warren in the bottom right corner, his dream was to win the Masters. That was a little bit of a tough one, but timely given the situation here. So he came to us with Parkinson's dementia, was not walking at the time. So he was motivated to go to therapy and get back to walking, and was able to play 9 holes. And at the end of the 9 holes, they were able to present him with a green jacket and made a really big deal out of it. And the coolest part about it, if you're a golf fan, is the story actually made it to Arnold Palmer, and Arnold Palmer wrote him a letter of congratulations and had his big Arnold famous signature on the bottom. And that letter was on Warren's dresser until he passed away, which was really cool. And then the top right corner here, one of our residents at our Stoughton community had been a substitute teacher her entire career. And she ended up getting presented with an honorary degree from University of Wisconsin at Madison, which is a really cool thing. We partner with Second Wind Dreams to make a lot of these come through. So locations, we have 5 locations currently around southeastern Wisconsin, including Verona, a new project in Mugwanago that just opened in November, and then looking to add here hopefully as well. As I mentioned, Azura kind of performs care and senior living a little bit differently. We provide a household model. And so there's really 3 primary models of care. The clinical model being the kind of older nursing homes, and that's where people with assisted living and memory care would typically reside in nursing homes, despite the lack of need for that level of care. And then assisted living was generated out of that. And the assisted living industry has really gone into a hospitality model where the buildings are much nicer aesthetically than the nursing homes, but have a hotel lobby type of situation and then a bunch of rooms. So people tend to spend time in their rooms, and it's when we go to a hotel, we typically don't spend a ton of time in the lobby. And then Azura really focuses on a household model. So we build homes that look and feel like home. We have 20 to 24 residents per household, and then really try to engage residents in the household areas. So the living room and the kitchen, where we spend time at home as well.
And just to add to that, the households are within the wings of the building. So it'd be the top floors on each side.
So to brag a little bit about our operations team, we have won several top places to work awards, as well as a Argentum Award, which is a big industry association for our design of our household models, and then Top Choice Awards, which is a operational award that's given to people based on ratings from families that live with us. And some of those reviews, mostly 5 stars. All of our communities are between 4.5 and 5 stars on online reviews. Saul touched on the market already, so I won't get into it a whole lot, but I really like this slide as it demonstrates where our industry is right now. The black arrow here shows sorry, this slide shows population by birth year. The black arrow is pointing to the birth year of our average resident age, which is 82 years of age. And so you can see the trend line over the next 16 years is quite vertical. And so the need for assisted living and memory care and age services is only going to continue to increase substantially over the near future. This is a view of our market area. The one thing to point out, Saul mentioned already, the total demand projected in that area is 2,300 beds. Currently, there are 621 CBRF licensed beds in this market area. All of our community will be licensed as CBRF, both the assisted living and the memory care, which allows us to provide higher levels of care within the assisted living. And so that'll bring, our community would bring the total supply up to 709. I don't want to brag too much, but a couple more awards that we've won. We've had great design teams and a lot of help involved in those. And then I just wanted to run through quickly some representative photos. This is a recent development in Verona. This was prior to opening, so there's a little cleanup on the maintenance left to be done in that photo, but wanted to share that for reference. And then some interior photos just to give you some perspective of the level of quality that Azura strives for in our communities. This would be the household kitchen area of one of our assisted living wings. This is a household of one of our assisted living communities at another project. And then getting into Azura at Wanakee. So from a staffing perspective, we will end up hiring about 100 total employees between full-time and part-time. Our peak shift will be about 30 team members. We do provide 24/7 staffing, and Azura team members through our Mosaic program do receive about 110 hours of training within their first year. Within the community, this is a big thing for Azura. We try to really be a member of the community. We're not just building a building and taking care of the residents within our building. We want to educate the community about aging, about dementia, and the struggles that are associated with that for families. And so we do provide educational events that will be held within our community room within the building, as well as outside events. We partner with the Alzheimer's Association. We try to host Alzheimer's walks. We provide virtual dementia tour experience to community members, as well as community police departments and fire departments if they choose to do so. And then also host support groups, memory cafes, and provide volunteer opportunities within the community as well. As far as the demolition and feasibility goes, just jumping through some of the items, we did try very hard to make sure that the architecture was representative of the farm buildings, but we did do an analysis on feasibility and location of our building with our household model. The building prototype really needed to be what it is, and this is only 3 of probably a dozen or more scenarios that we ran through trying to figure out what we could fit on this site. The yellow box in the center here is the main barn, so that you can see in all of these scenarios, there's really no way to save the farm buildings and still provide Azura's household communities. The left version here is the community that is proposed. And then in this slide, you can see with the access in our driveway down to the parking garage, as well as our resident gardens and everything else, there's just really not an ability, especially given grading and everything else, to maintain those buildings. And so unfortunately, those would need to be demolished in this case. I love farms too, so I hate to see that happen. And we did do diligent effort to try and make sure that we could save those, but unfortunately, that was not the case here. As far as the architectural design goes, if there's questions, I know I'm taking a little bit of time here, so I don't want to go too far, but we did do an in-depth analysis and made sure that the forms, the colors, the materials, and specifically the roof lines were carried through to the new building. So being very deliberate about trying to maintain the aesthetic of the historical buildings into the new building.
We did bring sample materials if you guys would like to see them.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Bring those up.
Yeah, I think one of the key things to note is that, Saul, do you want to hold up the CMU sample? The top one. Yep. So that's a concrete masonry unit is what CMU stands for. And these are we would be using split face CMU, which has a stone appearance in a buff color. Is that the getting nod of approval from the architects? And then getting into the elevations, this is showing some of the building elevations with the, was drop shadow the correct word? The recommended drop shadow versus what we're requesting for approval and just having a single color. One of the things to mention with this alternate color, it does introduce some construction issues in that you're really only gonna have one grout color on that wall. And so in order to do two colors on a single wall, you're going to end up with dark blocks that have a light grout or light blocks that have a dark grout. That's going to draw more attention to those, in addition to this kind of drawing your eye to that shadow line. Whereas the proposed building with one color, it is a little bit more visible in this situation, but we feel like long-term it's going to be the better option. We also did reduce the amount of CMU by about 30% from our initial submission to where we are now through changes in grading and landscaping as well. This corner is the close-up of the southeast corner, again showing the recommended versus the proposed options. And then this is the view from Main Street looking at that southeast corner, so you're quite a bit further away with both options. And then again, those landscaped with landscape to maturity, really screening all of your visual of that area as well. And then this is a picture of the existing farm, which also does have several areas of concrete foundation that are exposed. The silo has the concrete as well. So again, the color and the material that was chosen was really chosen to reminisce back to the buildings that are there today. For parking and traffic, just emphasizing, we do have 91 total stalls. Believe spacing on the total, I believe 24 on the surface and the remainder in the parking garage. In the report that was provided, the total number of needed or required stalls was listed at 86. That was with a 1-to-1 ratio for our assisted living units. In all of our portfolio, less than 10% of our residents actually drive. And so if you use the lower requirement of one unit for, or one parking stall for 6 residents, that need would only be 48. In any event, we're providing 91 stalls, but from our experience, 91 is an amount that would cover all of the parking needs, even on holidays and when we have larger amounts of visitors and those sorts of things. With traffic, I think the key note here is that the original development plan assumed commercial use that had a net of 60 to 75 cars per day. Our use is anticipated to have a total of approximately 30 peak hour vehicle trips. So we're about 30 to 45 less than what was in the original plan. About half. We did request to have some building signage, which these images are showing what that signage would look like. One is underneath the awning at the main entrance, which really isn't visible from any public ways. The other sign is on the siding at the southeast corner, which would just have a downlight over the top of it. And then for the monument sign, we're assuming that we're going to have a 4x8 monument sign that would be that would match size and location of the apartment monument sign across Bräunig Way. We are investigating naming the building to, naming the community after the name of the existing farm. So there's some things that we need to figure out and permissions from the family and those sorts of things. If that is done, we're requesting that the 4x8 be requirement be applied to the Azura sign and not the additional lettering naming the community. And then would like to request approval for the general size and location and allow staff to do a final review and approval for that. The red circle down here on the bottom left is the location of the apartment monument sign. This is our site plan overlaid, and then the proposed location of our monument sign, which would be just to the north of where the path comes across the street and then follows along Main Street. And then as far as city services go, this is just something that I'd like to provide. So in 2025, we reached out to Chief Whitaker from North Shore Fire, asking about total number of calls and those sort of things. The really key issue that they key on is the number of fall calls for fall assist. So you can see at the bottom of this email here, the number of actual fall calls received on Azura Fox Point, which is actually 80 memory care units, was 3 in our first 2 years of operations and 1 in the previous 2 years. So we do provide adequate staffing. We train our staff how to do lifts and assists, and we do 2-person assists. We do have Hoyers and sit-to-stand, so we're capable of providing those lift assists, and we don't make outbound calls for those. So that's the information that I have prepared. I'm happy to answer any questions if architects are here to answer questions as well. So thank you for your consideration.
Great. Let's open it up to the floor. Melissa, do you want to start?
No, I think that was really thorough. I mean, there's a huge need. I think the data we've seen and looking at the comp plan and obviously the information you shared that we still don't have enough even with this going in. I guess my other comments on I'd be confident with approval and comfortable just recognizing that any of the engineering comments are addressed. In regards to Tim's suggestion, I actually don't like this. I like the way it is. And frankly, after 4 to 5 years, you're not going to see anything anyway once the trees and shrubs are grown in. So I don't think we should recommend that from my perspective. So I think that there weren't any other major concerns that you guys had, right? So that's all I had. Thank you.
Great. Ryan.
I am all good.
All right, Mike.
I'm all good. I think I agree with you as far as Melissa's comment on, I like the looks of it as is. I think this is a very nice looking facility and will be an asset to the community. So I'm good with it.
Thank you.
Chris.
I'm in agreement. I would just ask, what was appealing of Wanakee for you?
Just the overall demographic and the need. Azura is a need-based operator. We go where there's a significant need and a demand. So we were approached by Three Leaf, and it was a great site, and it's a great community, and there's a significant need here. So yeah.
I would echo his comments, and I would say it's the only Wanakee in the world.
We are it. We are it. I love it. I love it. Well, when you those are the magic words. Yeah. So when you guys brought this forward originally, I told you that my mom had just been diagnosed with dementia at the time, and today we moved her into memory care. And so I talked to you guys about that when we came in, and we have been through this. Where do you put mom, and where's a facility that's close to us? And there's not a lot of availability here in Wanakee or even the side of Dane County, and we have a facility we like, but just this morning, as we were moving her and her in-home caregiver, Jolene Breinig, and I were talking, and she said, I was at an Azura facility a couple weeks ago visiting one of my Fort Worth clients, and she had amazing things to say about you. So that's high praise coming from somebody who's been in the field for decades now and does in-home care. So very excited to see this be built here in Wanakee, and love also that you incorporated the architecture of the farm in the look of the buildings, echoing the roof lines and whatnot. That's such an important part of Wanakee's look and feel, and what a tribute to the Breinig farm that this is, the neighborhood is an all ages neighborhood and embraces the community. So very excited to see this happen. I agree with you, Melissa, about the shadow line not being necessary. I think it's got a good look to it. So with that, does anybody have any other comments? Not, then I'd like to make a motion to approve the SIP subject to the resolution of the remaining planning and engineering comments.
Second.
All right, any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right,
Thank you.
thanks. Yeah, thank you very much. All right, and the last item on the list, page 103, or second to last item on the list, Joint Plan Commission update. Discuss and take action on a preliminary plat and rezoning for Heyday.
All right. So this is a preliminary plat and rezoning for the Heyday project. I believe a concept plan came to you all. This was a number of months, maybe last summer. That sounds right.
I think it was
Back in July.
July of 25.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the rezoning request would be rezoning from A1 to planned unit development, PUD. And then the proposed subdivision, it includes 114 single-story rental homes, 36 two-story rental townhomes, and 53 single-family lots. So this is the overall master plan that's included in their materials. And the single-family lots are on the south side of the development. This is, as you might recall, this is flipped, so it's not. So Plan North is actually east. So single-family lots on the south side of the site, and then the northern site are the rental townhomes and single-story homes. So the preliminary plat includes 54 lots and 2 outlots. So lots 1 through 53 are the single family lots, and then lot 54 is all private, and that will include all of the rental units. Outlot 1 is dedicated for stormwater management, and outlot 2, which I can point back on here, outlot 2 is right here. If you can see my little cursor, that's where the sanitary lift station will be located. In terms of the preliminary plat, the only remaining planning comment is that we would request no vehicular access on lot 1 along North Madison Street. You'll notice that we have no vehicular access along Easy Street on these lots 24 through 27. We want those driveways to come off of that Piper Place. And we just request the same thing for lot 1 down here off of Madison Street so that it's coming off the Jordan Avenue. And then I'll also go over general development plan, but then we can go back to the preliminary plat if there are questions. But the GDP, generally with GDPs, we adopt one of the zoning code standards in our current zoning code and then make changes or kind of modifications to those standards. So this GDP would adopt R2, single family residential district. The modifications to R2 would include permitted uses modified to allow single-family attached dwellings with up to 6 units per structure. The minimum lot area would be reduced from 8,500 to 7,000 square feet, and the minimum lot width would be reduced from 70 feet to 50 feet. The other item of discussion with the GDP includes the kind of green/open space element of this project. The developer is proposing a 2.14 acre private central green. So that would be what they consider the programmed gathering space. Plus, there are some additional green spaces throughout the rental development functioning as passive park areas. The project also proposes 10-foot multi-use paths along North Madison Easy, as well as a gravel walking path that winds through the northern edge of the site. And I'll show that here. So you can see in the central area, that's the 2.14 acre private park. And because there is no public park being developed, the developer would be required to pay not only park impact fees, but also park in lieu of fees. So that has to be approved by the village board to allow park in lieu fees. But the discussion so far with this development is that there are adjacent parks in this area, including the park just south of this development, and I'm forgetting the name now, Northridge Park. And so the idea was that there was somewhat of a comfort level, but obviously more to be discussed by Plan Commission, Village Board, to only have a private park as part of this development. And then I'll point out the path here that's proposed that runs along the north side of the site that kind of connects the green space areas to the rest of the development. So a comment we had on the GDP relates to the paths. We recommend modifying that northern proposed path that I just showed you all to change from a gravel path to an asphalt path. One being because there's actually a planned sanitary sewer line that will run along that stormwater site. And in talking with utilities, they thought it would be easier to access if it's actually an asphalt path instead of a gravel path. Additionally, it'll be a nicer path for folks to use in the development. So I think kind of dual purpose. Additionally, we recommend adding additional trail network throughout the development to kind of connect these areas. So we have a planner at MSA that helped kind of review these plans, and he kind of drew up some possible connections that could be included. So see this like dark green line area that runs through one of the green spaces he recommended, as well as connecting the path to North Madison Street, and then potentially connecting paths up to that northern wetland area as well. So staff recommend approval conditioned upon the resolution of these planning comments. Next steps for this project would actually be going to the village board, who would approve the preliminary plat, the rezoning, and a development agreement as part of this project.
All right.
Hi.
Okay, yeah.
Lauren, I think I should be able to share, right? Let's see here. I don't see a share option. Great. All right, my name is Josh Warwick. I'm with Heyday. And I'm here with Anthony Rodriguez and Ryan Swingruber. And we're here to talk about our proposed project in Wanakee. All right, so really quickly, this is what I'll be running through. I'll give a quick, try to make this quick because I know that you guys have been here for a while, but I'll talk about who we are in the project timeline. I'll talk briefly about the comprehensive plan and how we align with it. We've been at this for a little while now, so we've gotten a lot of feedback both from staff and from residents. So we'll talk a little bit about what we heard and how we responded. We'll talk about the public benefit and our offsite improvements. Then I'll go through some details about the actual plan and then just close down with what our next steps are. So really quickly, Heyday, founded in 2020 with Ryan Swingruber and myself. We're based in Arlington Heights, Illinois. We founded the company with this particular use of real estate development in mind, which was build to rent housing, low density housing made to serve really the two fastest demographics in fastest growing demographics in rental, which is the baby boomers on the upper end and your kind of Gen Z millennials who are looking to get into home ownership, but just either are renters by choice or they need to save up and they can't quite purchase a home yet. So thus far, we have 300 homes under management. We have 170 in Sun Prairie, not too far from this site, and 130 in Oak Creek, which is just south of Milwaukee. Another 222 units currently under construction. Those are in Cottage Grove, where we have 114 townhomes, and in Aurora, Illinois, where we have 108 townhomes under construction. We are long-term holders of our projects. Both of the first two projects that we've built to date, we've refinanced with 5-year Fannie debt, and we have every intention of continuing to take advantage of good longer-term debt options like that and maintain ownership for a long period of time. Our third-party property management company is Village Green. They're a national company with 20,000 homes under management, and we recently started using them in January this year. And of course, we are happy to provide references for projects that we've done to date. Mayor Esser and Mayor Dan Berkowitz at Oak Creek were both fantastic to work with, and I think would only have great things to say about us. So as I mentioned earlier, we've been at this about 8 months. Started in July 2025, where we were in front of Plan Commission, and then a little bit later in front of Village Board with a plan that's very similar to what we're presenting tonight. We've been working with staff since then and submitted our GDP in January of this year, a revision in March, and now here we are today. So talk about the comprehensive plan alignment. Really quickly, the site is designated community residential on the adopted future use land map. And our PUD zoning request tonight matches up with that. More specifically, when you go into the details of the comprehensive plan, there's a couple items that I'll highlight that we are bringing to Waunakee, which is highlighted in the housing goals of your comprehensive plan. So the first thing is diverse housing. We have 3 housing types on this property: 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, and 4 bedrooms in both rental and a for sale component. We are not building the for sale component. We are going to develop the single family home lots, have those 100% ready to go for single family home developer to come in. We are in discussions, and I believe no reason why it wouldn't happen. We will have all 53 of those single family home lots sold to a single developer who will, a local non-public, who will come in and take those down from us in quarterly increments. And so in about 5 quarters, a year and a little, they'll have all of those lots absorbed, and we'll be hopefully building on almost all of them. Inclusive design. So our 114 single-story cottages that we are building are universally designed. So what does that mean? No step entry, single floor living, ADA and ADA compliant. We have wider hallways. A certain number of the units already installed to be ANSI A compliant. Every other home is ANSI B compliant and ready to have those additional grab bars and other things that would be make it immediately accessible for people with a disability. And so only about 4% of the US housing stock offers all 3 of those features. And that's really a big part of our business plan. Is we believe that empty nester, before they're going to some of the facilities that you guys approved tonight, they want to be independent. They no longer want to maintain a house. They don't want to do all the maintenance. And oftentimes want to unlock equity to do other things in their lives. This is a stop where they can come, get out of the home ownership model. We do 100% of the maintenance for them, and single-story, completely accessible living, very, very popular. The third thing is, as I mentioned earlier, we have both rental and for sale integrated on this site. And the fourth, goal 2, safe and distinctive. A master plan with parkland, significant open space, 10-foot multipaths along the southern and western edges, which are Madison and Easy Streets, and connections through the garden courtyards and the open space throughout. One thing that I will add, and this is actually new information that I haven't told Lauren and Todd yet, but we were discussing, in order to get approvals for the 10-foot multipaths along Madison and Easy, we have to disturb wetlands, and that's obviously very difficult. No one in this room has governance over that. It's both the Army Corps of Engineers and WDNR. In order to find out if we can disturb those wetlands, we had to do what's called a JD, a jurisdictional determination with the Army Corps of Engineers. We submitted that. We've had 2 wetland consultants. The first was confident that they were going to take jurisdiction over that. We've switched wetland consultants after we found out that the Army Corps is not taking jurisdiction over that. So it's great news. It means that our pathway to putting in the 10-foot multipaths that we wanted to put in, that you all wanted to put in, that it's a far easier path to do that now. So there's still some hurdles we have to go through, but the timeline shortened up and we think we'll be successful in getting those approvals. So some of the infrastructure and natural resources throughout the site, we're going to be adding, as part of this, a new lift station. That lift station is going to serve approximately 160 acres of future development to our north, and I think a little bit to the west. We're also installing 2,000 lineal feet of sanitary sewer from the south on the other side of Easy Street, bringing it up to the corner and then distributing it throughout our site and to the lift station, obviously. We're also doing water main extensions and looping the water main for system reliability. As part of this, with the JD now behind us, we'll be able to urbanize both Madison and Easy on our side of the street, which is what we had proposed. We have 3 public streets throughout. That'll be a 66-foot right-of-way. And I also mentioned the 10-foot multipaths. Natural resources and stormwater that we'll either be preserving. There's 20.6 acres of wetlands that I'll show on a map shortly that we will not be disturbing, but for the improvements on Easy and Madison. We'll be maintaining all of the necessary buffers and all of the stormwater requirements that were talked about earlier today. In a different development, we're obviously held to those same standards, and we are meeting or exceeding those in all cases. And we do have our civil engineer if there's any questions on that as well. So what we heard and how we responded in an earlier version of the plan, and this is what we've built in our first 2 projects, we had 22-foot streets. I think 24-foot backer curb to backer curb. That's not code here. We had proposed keeping it because we can show that on those 22-foot streets, there's no parking allowed. So therefore, traversing those streets with emergency services vehicles is without a concern. However, it didn't sound like that was something that staff was going to support. So we redesigned the site a little bit, and we've now put 32 face-to-face on all of our private roads. Traffic study was commissioned. There were no major concerns about traffic at these locations, but any of the minor suggestions in the traffic study will be adopted. I had mentioned the stormwater and the 10-foot multipaths. Landscaping is preliminary right now, but we will be meeting Wanakee standards for landscaping. And then one thing I will highlight when I get to the actual plans, Ryan and I have had issues with our architecture in the past. It's an evolving thing. But over the course of feedback from residents, our own architects, meeting with staff in different municipalities, we've really, I think, dramatically changed the architecture. And how we did that was we previously didn't have front doors on the street facing side of our homes, with the logic being we really wanted a sense of community and we wanted the front doors facing on open spaces. It works well in some circumstances. It's kind of a new urbanist approach, but what it doesn't do is it really ends up having the garage facing side of your home be an afterthought. And so we're going to maintain the community centric part of our developments on the garden courtyards and the open space by enhancing
the back of the homes with expanded patios and covered porches, but we brought the front door to the street side of the development. And so what that does is it allows us to put a front porch next to the garage, and it really enhances the architecture. And now you have two facades that are welcoming to residents. So we think that's a really good improvement. Again, through the GDP submittal, there's been review of all the civils. Those have been addressed. Two comments that we did have when we held a community meeting. One was from the neighbor across easy to the south, who is very concerned with the street alignment and the street lights of cars coming down Charlotte and looking out to his house. So we've studied that, and there's two things. One, his home is 10 feet above that location, so the street lights really will not be directly into his unit. It's also very far set back from the road. But even with that said, we're going to work with that neighbor and potentially enhance landscaping on his property and our property. Can't really do much on our property with it being a road. Those streetlights are going to look out towards the road. So we're willing to work with that resident and make sure that any concerns that they have are addressed. And then there's kind of in the south, let me just pull it up. This corner of the property, this resident just had some concerns about, and along here, about making sure there was landscaping and berming between the homes. So we're going to be addressing that as well. Public benefit and offsite improvement. So I talked about most of this stuff, but I'm just going to highlight the fact that we aren't asking for any financial assistance here. And so it's no cost to the taxpayer. We're with the lift station opening up 160 additional acres to future development for Wanakee expansion. Again, the 2,000 lineal feet of sewer, bringing 103 housing units. 55.7% of our site is open space. We're urbanizing both Easy and Madison on our side of the streets and preserving 20.6 acres of the wetlands. And between the single family home development and our Heyday development, we believe we'll have approximately 500 plus or minus future residents. All right, so with that, we'll talk about the plan. Really quickly, we can see the site here highlighted in orange at the corners of Easy and Madison, north of downtown Wanakee. Here's our site plan in detail. So as Lauren was saying, the south side of the site is to your right. That is where we have the single family home lots. There's 53 that are designed around the stormwater basins and our new public streets. The street that is running east-west, which is up-down in this plat, through the center of the development is a public right-of-way that will have future expansion to the east. And then the public streets are everything that are plan east or what is north. And I'll zoom in a little bit. These are our townhomes. So originally our townhomes were located in a different part of the site. We redesigned this kind of last minute in working with Lauren and Todd and Steve from MSA. Yeah, because Tim is conflicted out. And so Steve had some really good suggestions to the site plan, and we incorporated both of them. So one of the important ones was previously, in our public streets, we had our product, the single-story cottages, kind of facing the public street like this. And Steve had made the suggestion that the townhomes, if you fronted the townhomes on the public street, you're gonna create a much better sense of community at the public streets. And when he had suggested it, it was like, obviously, I don't know how we didn't do that in the first iteration. So we changed that, and we have all of our townhouses on this side of the development now. I have a rendering that'll show you what that'll look like. As part of our working with staff, we had tried very hard to buy this parcel. And unfortunately, despite meeting with this gentleman, who was a really nice man, sat down with him at Wanable and agreed to a price. He made a suggestion. We said, that's great. Happy to buy your house for that. And then sent him a contract and didn't hear from him for a couple weeks. Finally got in touch with him and he had changed his mind. So it's unfortunate. We very much wanted to incorporate that into the project, but it doesn't appear to be possible.
figure out how to zoom out. All right, so I had mentioned the open space. This is approximately 8.4 acres. This is activated open space. This is where we'll have trails and the 2.14 acre central green that we will, none of these spaces will be activated like park activated in the sense of basketball courts, baseball fields or things like that, but they will be activated through benches and kind of passive activity where people can gather and sit and do things like that. We feel like with Northridge across the street and a couple other parks very close by, this is a better use of the space as opposed to activating it with courts and whatnot. So again, this map shows you the open space that is, the green area that's about 59% of the project. This is our wetlands and stormwater areas that we are maintaining. The south wetlands at 4.5 acres, the north wetlands at 16.1 acres. So overall density, including the single family homes, we're at about 4.5 units per acre. Quick image showing public streets and I'm sorry, this is actual sidewalk connections. So the blue is our 10-foot multipaths. These are sidewalk connections on either side of public streets, our sidewalk connections on the private streets, and then what we had proposed is a gravel trail, but I understand staff is suggesting that that be asphalt. So really quickly, the three types of homes, I keep saying really quickly and nothing's going fast, so I apologize. Three types of homes, the two rentals in green that we are going to be building, single-story cottages, two-story townhomes, and then the for sale product. And this is just an example. This is from the developer that we expect will be building. So that should be representative of the types of homes that they will build. All right, so let's get into some project character. So here's what I was talking about. We never used to have a front door at this location and we didn't have a front porch. So these were just windows into bedrooms. And so by bringing the front door on this side of the home, we have really activated the front of the space. Something else that we did is if you look at our projects in Oak Creek or in Sun Prairie, we only have a single version of your garage facade, which is a gabled roof with an element here. We've now created three different garage presentations, which will occur on every building that is 6 units. 4-unit building, you'll just have 2 of the 3 examples. And I'll be showing those. The third thing that we did is we have, to get some additional fenestration, we've extended this garage out approximately 3 feet from a standard 22-foot depth garage. So what that does is obviously enhances the facade, but it provides a 25-foot depth garage that can fit a full-size truck, which we think is really important. One of the things we've noticed in other communities as well as ours is it's really hard to get a Ford F-150 in. You can't for the most part. And so people park on their 22-foot parking aprons. You won't need to do that at our community. So this is kind of a larger gable with a smaller gable for the extended garage. Down at this elevation, you have a small gable with a hip. And then the final elevation, you have the full-size elevation, the full-size gable over both garages. So you won't have this repetitious nature that you see on some of our version 1 of the development. So now I'm going to kind of go through different renderings really quickly of how this looks. On the next slides, you'll have this slide, and then this is the same building in a different material palette. So again, this is a shake style in the gables with lap siding and a stone base. And then here is kind of a traditional board and batten without a stone base. So same kind of situation here, 2 different elevations of the same image. So throughout the community, we will change materiality, we will change color. You'll now have the change of the roof lines as well. So it'll feel remarkably different than, in addition to being activated because of the front porches, than what we had done previously. And then this is the hip with the small gable. and then what we had done previously with the single gable. So we're really happy with how these have evolved, and hope you guys are too. And some additional renderings. This is of our, obviously of our townhomes. So the same sort of experience with our townhomes. There's only going to be 4 buildings that are facing the public street, and the other 2 are on the other side. But we will do the same sort of thing on these buildings, where we change colors, change materiality, use of stone. This is a product we're building currently in Cottage Grove, and I think it looks great. It's coming out really good. Our interior renderings, we pride ourselves on what I call condo or single-family home quality finishes. These are renderings, but if you go inside our homes, this is exactly what they look like. All right, so our path forward, everything goes great tonight, then, well, I think we'll be at the village board regardless next week. We hope to hit the May 11th submittal for the PIP or SIP. And if everything goes well, we will be beginning construction midsummer. Latest would be maybe early fall. So with that, I thank you and open it up to questions.
All right, thank you. And with that, what questions do we have? Melissa, can I start with you?
Sure. I guess 2, 1, the rental homes are all slab on grade, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you able to share who you might sell the single family lots to, or not there yet? Or ideas on who they might be?
It'll be a local home builder who's currently building in Wanakee, is that right? Are they building here? They're building in a lot of communities around here.
Okay.
I haven't asked them if I could share,
Yep,
so I'm
no
just
problem.
hesitant to do so without asking them.
And then I guess my only other question, I think everything else looks good. I understand the park sentiment. I mean, it's relatively speaking, a smaller site, so to cram all that in and not put a park in, I guess my one question in regards to the trails, I think that one dark green line that was in between, like parallel with Charlotte and Piper, while sounds like you guys were thinking about maybe putting in, and it was on Lauren's map, you guys were maybe thinking about putting in trails and other things.
Yeah.
I don't know if I think it's needed there. Do you foresee or allowing, I guess my one question is public access? Are you going to have these marked as private trails for your residents only? And are you going to monitor that then?
Well, that's just it, right? Like, even if we did that, it's not really something we could monitor. And we haven't done that in the past. I would venture to say it's open to the public unless there's some problem. And we don't foresee that being the case. So.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree, the payment in lieu of park fees, well, impact fees plus. So I think that makes sense, and I understand why you don't want to do it here. I guess then my only question or concerns back to you guys would be, if they don't really want public access, ideally, do we really want to make that connection there? I mean, there are the 10-foot paths on Easy and Madison, and God knows at this point you will never get rid of those darn kids on their scooters. Anyway, so I know it's a whole nother hot topic, but from my perspective, I guess my question would be more to staff. If the intent is not that it has public access, should we be, I would almost say don't do the trail between, that's kind of the one you had, the long green line between Piper and Charlotte, but then do we really need to make the connection to Madison? I would assume from a liability perspective, they'd prefer you didn't. And if we're not saying it's public access, I guess, I don't know if we should force it, is my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I'll just add that I think there's flexibility in where exactly the trail network goes. I think the main concern was really having some kind of open space amenity for the neighborhood, and specifically the single family area that doesn't have the green open space. Obviously, they have Northridge Park across the street, but the thought was to add a little bit more trail network to allow them to access these areas as well, even if technically they're private. It's the closest amenity to them, and likely they'd like to use it.
And they'd have sidewalks though, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's one thing that I would add is, so like, we didn't do anything like this, kind of what we were proposing is gravel in either one of our first 2 developments, in Oak Creek and Sun Prairie, but they do have extensive sidewalks throughout, and those are used by the residents to, I mean, mostly, it's unbelievable the number of residents that have pets. And they're out there walking their pets all the time.
Cottage Grove, they forced you to do the trail, right? Was it Cottage Grove or Sun Prairie? Did you have a trail that had to be put in there?
So it wasn't really a trail as part, it's Sun Prairie. What we did there is we dedicated 4.6 acres and we had to, there was an existing trail on the other side and we
Had
connected.
to connect this.
Yes,
I kind of
Yeah.
remember it. I knew it was one of those.
yeah.
Um,
Build a bridge too.
yeah, I remember that.
It's a good looking bridge.
That's kind of my only questions there. I guess that would be my 2 cents on is maybe let you guys figure that whole part out. I don't think in our motion I'd want to force that, so. Thank you.
Let's ping pong. Mike?
I think your changes look really good.
Thank
I
you.
don't have any questions. I think it's a nice project.
Thanks.
Brian?
I'm gonna say that I'm all for trail connectivity. That's one of our things in our comp plan as well, so whatever that connection is, I would defer to staff, but I think there should be some connectivity there, not only for this development, but for potential future development and how, you know, that access might be, whether it's along Madison or through a green space. Couple of questions I have is, there was content or comment about the lift station. Do we know where on this plan where the lift station is going to be?
Yeah, so it is right here.
Okay, and so that's supposed to provide additional capacity to the north and west, north and east probably, right? Or,
That's correct.
okay. And there was a comment made, I think maybe Lauren, you made it about sanitary sewer going along, I'm assuming, along the northern buffer there? It's by the trail up,
Yep.
Yeah, up here.
And it runs along the stormwater.
is it there or is it along the north edge?
Yes, you can't see my mouse.
I'm sorry, so you're saying, is it like here or?
There's a future line that kind of almost runs where the trail.
Yeah,
The
it's,
dotted line is, that there is a sanitary.
Now, is that going as part of this project or is it?
Yeah, it is.
yeah, everything's being put to the property lines, both north and east.
For future connectivity there as well. Okay,
Correct.
all right. And I think one of the points, and it looks like you covered it here, is the improvements to Easy Street and Madison Street. Is Easy Street a full improvement or just a half?
Our side of the right of way.
Okay, and the same thing on Madison?
Correct.
Okay, and that's all curb and gutter, urban section?
Yes, right, Lauren? Is that right?
Yep, and then the other side of Madison Easy will be a rural
Right.
improvement. So the full road will be improved, but
Correct.
just the side on their development will be urban, which is curb and gutter and sidewalk.
Okay, but the whole road will be paved?
Correct.
Redone, okay, all right. And then I saw, it looks like you do have a one-side sidewalk through the rental units.
Correct.
Your renderings showed that being cut off at each driveway, or is that gonna carry through?
Those details probably need to be worked out.
Okay.
Because I've noticed that. So the driveways are 22 feet on the building side of the sidewalk.
The
So you have
setback for the
20
garage is
feet.
22?
Yes, so you have
Okay.
22 feet, so you could park a car comfortably without infringing upon the sidewalk. Whether or not we have that concrete section go through the driveway and then more asphalt, or if it's just gonna be, no, that, I don't even think there would be more asphalt, it'd just be concrete at that point. Or if that's gonna be like a 27-foot asphalt section.
Sure.
I think we still need to work that out.
And how do those details get addressed?
This will come back to the Plan Commission for an SIP, specific implementation plan. So this is just the preliminary plat and the rezoning.
Sure, okay.
Do you have a preference for that?
Well, of course I do. Well, I think uniformity, you'd run your sidewalk all the way through.
Sure.
And just put your driveway cut out in there and to me, it would make it more aesthetically, plus it's probably gonna be where people are gonna wanna walk it more.
Yeah.
And you talked about the setting of getting people, the community and stuff, right? That's gonna help people for that. Last question I had, I think you've done a really nice job with improving this plan and I like hitting on some of the things we talked about the last time. You mentioned the townhomes and their visibility to the street side of the public street. What are you gonna do with the couple of units on the backside?
So, I mean, the rendering that I showed, it'll be identical. This side of those townhomes will be identical to the side that's facing the public.
So they're gonna have more of an open to the green space.
Yeah, those will be fantastic, open, and they'll have their front doors open to the green space, they're correct.
All right. No, thank you.
All right. Chris?
There's a lot I like about your project, and there's some things that I have significant challenges with. This is me, so I'm gonna be a little different probably than my rest of my plan commission members. So I like the changes you've made. I think you guys have done a really nice job in implementing those changes to what we asked for. So that's great. I'm really happy we got the paths on, or sidewalks on Easy and Madison. So I think that's great. In your opinion, what do our existing residents get from this addition other than more residents to our community?
Well, they get a type of housing that I think is not existent currently in Wanakee.
Not those people that are coming new, our existing residents. As
No.
we add subdivisions in the past, there's always been amenities within that the whole community would use. I feel like with the changes we've made, we've kind of closed off your property, if that makes any sense. The paths, I don't see people coming up here to use the paths in here. I think it's gonna be for the people that
Sure.
live here. I don't see people going up there for that. I don't see Easy Street being an easy thing to cross. And to Lauren's point of, we have Northridge Park. Northridge Park is still 3 blocks into the subdivision away from this. It's not right there at Easy Street.
I mean, there's access off of Easy.
Not saying there's not access.
Okay.
So that those residents that have put their homes there and that, they have that as an amenity, and the rest of the community can use that. I look at what is this providing the rest of the residents, and I just don't see that.
So can I?
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the things, this is a low density development. Doing low density development is more challenging than high density development. We have more costs. We're doing the same sort of improvements that we're spreading over a far less number of units. So because of that, we have to make some sacrifices. And we believe that the amenity here is the home itself. That you can't find this type of living. It's like, just look across the country. This is quote unquote the missing middle. It doesn't exist because it is very, very difficult to make it work economically. So you do have to make some sacrifices. We think 53% of the site being green and open space is a fantastic thing. People like having yards. When you live in a single family home, for the most part, you're not getting much community amenity. You're using community amenities that have been built throughout a municipality as your additional amenity. Here we're providing, a type of home that is accessible to people that I'm saying live currently in Wanakee, no longer want to own a home, and now have a place where they can go. And instead of looking at a 3-story walk-up with surface parking or an elevator building with common hallways, and I got to park somewhere and I got to traverse to get in my home, you now have a place where you drive into your garage, park, and walk into your home without steps. And that does not exist in a rental format. You can get that in a ranch for sale, single family home, which is also not very common. So our amenity very much is the living space.
Okay. As far as the costs go, the changes you've made, which are great, as I said, what has that done to your price points now for what you're gonna have to sell these things for? Or your rental amounts or your lots for pricing? Has it changed that?
It really hasn't. The changes so when you say the changes we made, you're talking about since we previously presented to you.
Correct.
And we didn't have those renderings that showed, we had anticipated doing that. We just didn't have it designed and figured out. We knew from building our previous developments that there was an improvement that was needed. So we always anticipated additional cost in our pro forma to do something and advertised our rents or came up with our rents based on that. And they're not remarkably different than what they were when we presented previously.
Great, that's great to hear. Within that. Within one of our subdivisions that we chose to many years ago, called Castle Creek, there's no parks in there. And we get from residents that move there or are there, why don't we have a park? we hear often. So this kind of makes me shudder a little bit, but we do have parks throughout the rest of the community, and that's what I talk about is the use of those. That's why I talked about what are our residents getting that are here already that have paid for those things, the amenities, and continue to. The paths that you're putting in, or that maybe we're gonna take out, based on what I heard. As we were talking about that, I'm like, all right, well, are they gonna service those? Are they gonna be doing the repair work on all those paths that we're now forcing them to pave? There's costs associated with that much more than if not. So just for what it's worth, I'm in agreement on the paths, for those going out. I know that's not necessarily our whole thing with Brian, but I think if we're going around the subdivision, I think we're good.
Well, and I think it's also important to note that we do have a 10-foot multi-path along the frontage of the entire development, right? So it's not as though we don't have paths.
Right. That's what I'm getting at yes. So within that. And the one that probably annoys me the most, and I'm trying to get through it. Todd, I had a conversation with Todd the other day, and it really comes down to Madison Street. When we annexed the land, I would assume that you asked not to have that portion in because we would probably require you to do the road improvements going around there. And I don't know that's for fact, but that's typically with our developers, anything that's touching it is going to be there. You saw that Veridian was here tonight. They had to do 2 roads that were surrounding their subdivision, going on in Schumacher and Division. Thank you. That they participated in the cost. This, when you say there's zero cost to the taxpayers, we are going to be expanding north. That's where we're headed at this point, which means we're going to not have anybody to pay for that road because that's not going to be, there's not much room there for any kind of development to happen. So the cost of that road extending to the north on North Madison is, it's not a cheap thing. And I get that with your performer that you know, there's only so much there to work with, but I'm really not excited that we've done this for all of our developers, basically, that we would have that road included as part of this project. Because this is where the money is made, is this section. That section is not, and that was removed. So we had that removed and we had our parks removed out of here. So those are the 2 things that I have significant challenges with. Just, you want to address those tonight or out into the future?
Well, the land to the north, it wasn't, and it's still not clear whether or not we're going to be acquiring that. So that's one of the reasons it's not included in the development and was not included in the annexation. However, I've understood that that is an important piece, and I have spoken with staff, and the current landowner or whoever owns it, has pledged that it will be brought into Wanakee, which was, as I was told, that was the important thing, is that land not, because as I understand it, if Wanakee is going to expand to the north, which is one of the only directions Wanakee has to expand, that it's, you know, I think it's constitution or ordinance, I'm not sure exactly where it lies, but you can't kind of jump a parcel. And so that was the feedback I was given, and we've pledged that will happen.
So where I'm going with that is that roadway is going to then fall to the taxpayers here in the community. 100%, which in my opinion, I asked what the community is going to get. They're going to get $1 million+ road that they're going to have to pay for as a result of this being taken out of the project. My opinion.
All right, my turn. Yeah, so compared to arrangements we had with other developers, how does this compare? Are we asking more or less with regards to road improvements and amenities?
So to your question, Kristen, and to Chris's points just now, we are meeting at a staff level on the development agreement tomorrow. We received a version from the attorney for Heyday, who we've worked with before, and he did work off of in agreement, that, you know, kind of our standard form agreement. So we're going to kind of have to take a look at that, and that's going to come to the village board. I think that's really going to break down the, you know, the road issue. My belief is, and I guess the one other thing I want to raise now that we have the site plan up, and I don't know the answer to this question, but my understanding is when you're coming off of Madison there, you have a right turn into what is going to be a public street that heads east. And right now, as you look at the site plan, that tees into what looks like green space. And so my recollection is that that green space that is there right now would be potentially, or, you know, if the land to the east develops, you can have the road go through there. And so there may be reasons why we want it to be green space now. There is language in the village code that would suggest that that road needs to go all the way to the edge of the plat. Now, the village board has the authority to effectively not require that, and there might be good reasons. But that's one of the things that I think that we're gonna have to talk about tomorrow at a staff level, and then probably with the developer is, you know, is there a reason why it's green space right now when it could be a road, and certainly what's happening with the utilities. So I raise that now to go to your question of what have we done before in other agreements? Other agreements have always required the utilities and the roads always to go to the edge of the plat. Doesn't mean it has to happen here, because the board does have the flexibility to say, nope, we might have a good reason why it's gonna stop. The road issue, I think, is something that we're gonna have to talk about tomorrow, because even though it's not in the annexation, you know, even though that land's not in the annexation, there's certainly times where we have asked developers to contribute to off-site improvements because we believe it benefits the property. I need to talk to engineers about that more to make a definitive statement, but that's something that's gonna be a topic of discussion. I'm not aware of, in the subdivisions agreements that I have worked on since, let's say 2007, we've always had public parks. That would be, I think, the one main difference here is I don't recall ever having a subdivision that doesn't have a public park. Doesn't mean, you know, I've heard the, you know, the statements made by the developer, they're rational statements. So there might be a reason why you wouldn't have a public park here, but that's always been the case. And then one of the things that I need to get a little bit more information on tomorrow as we're talking about the development agreement, I think goes more to Chris's questions, which is, okay, within here, what's public and what's private? Because I do agree that if certain things are private, and I don't think the developer wants to do this, because this makes sense, like how do you enforce that? Like how do you keep people off your private? And I don't exactly know how that's going to work out, because we've never had to address that before. Everything effectively has always been public when it's come in. Not to say that it can't be this way. Obviously it can. It's just that I think we have to talk it through to try to be able to provide some of the answers to the questions that you've had tonight when this gets to the board.
Can I ask a question? So there's never, the fee and lieu's never been used before?
I am not aware of that happening with any of the residential subdivisions dating back at least the last 18 years.
And when you're saying residential subdivision, you're talking because this has single family home lots attached to it, or you're just saying anything like a multifamily, there's a multifamily development that was done in downtown Wanakeen. It's a 3-story on.
Yeah, that, you know, the infill development will definitely have fees in lieu of, but not like a greenfield new, you know, residential home development. Correct.
And I think, Chris, you're right. Probably the last one was Castle Creek. We lived there. It has a public green space that runs throughout the back of it. That was part of the developer's plan. And no park within it. And there's probably not a 9-month period that goes by that I don't get a question about that, or we don't get an email about that. So can you go back? I know we've had conversations about, and I like the way the townhouses are now, the new positioning of the townhouses. Before that, they were in a different area, and there was kind of a space that would lead you into this common private park in the old rendering of this. And when that kind of open space that you know leads you to believe that it's a public park was still there, and we talked about that even though this was a private park, that the public would certainly be welcome to use it. I feel like, although I really like where the townhouses are now, and I see how that's an improvement, does close off that green space to anybody that's, you know, maybe even within the subdivision, but doesn't have a backyard backing up to that. That's not necessarily a space that's going to feel like it's open or welcoming, and certainly it is private. So it doesn't, it's not required to be open and welcoming, because you can talk through, why you don't want a public park, what's your rationale behind that? I know we've had some of that conversation, but I think maybe for those of us on the plan commission that weren't part of that, that's maybe a good conversation or something to talk about now, since it is a concern.
Yeah, it's not that we don't want a public park. It's just that we were there's a lot of moving pieces here that we were trying to make work. Expanding the roads from 24 feet or 24 feet to 32 feet infringed upon the design. It definitely made it more difficult, and we lost a whole bunch of homes by needing to do that, and we had to make them up. And the easiest way to make them up was in this configuration. It's just, it's a push and pull between expenses and things we're trying to accomplish here, keeping the numbers in a way that it economically makes sense for the project, and also trying to deliver everything that we're trying to deliver here. It's definitely, as I mentioned earlier, really difficult with low density to make all this stuff work. We view everything on this page as a single family home. Like, everything to us is a single family home, and single family homes have private backyards. And so this is, from our experience talking to the residents that live in our communities, this works for them. This is, they like the private spaces that they can use as if they were living in a single family home. It's as I said, like, when you buy a single family home, your expectation isn't that it's going to come with a gym. Your expectation isn't that it's going to come with a pool. Sometimes they do. But you understand you're going to have some private space, and you're going to use public community amenities. With there being a really nice public park directly south across the street, it just seemed that of the things that we needed to sacrifice, that this was achievable and didn't end up jeopardizing the project overall. It's not that we didn't want a public park. It's not that we're against that.
What's the demographics or expected demographics of those that will go into the single-story rental homes?
So it's really two different sides of the dumbbell. You will get the family formation. They've probably high 20s, low 30s. They've lived in an apartment in, as I had mentioned before, a 2 or 3 story walk up. They could be married. They might have started family formation. They usually don't have school age kids, but some do. 10% of our homes in Sun Prairie have school age children. The other side of the dumbbell is, I think, approximately 40% of our residents are 50 years of age and older. And that's the empty nester cohort that is selling a single family home for the most part and moving into our product type.
So based on the first demographic that you talked about, where do you see those, I'll use the word young families or new families, where do you see them entertaining, having been through that? In this development?
You're saying
Are you expecting
outside
them
of
to
their
walk
home?
3 blocks down to the park and that's where they're going to entertain, or?
You're saying outside of their home?
Yes. Activity, I should say, maybe I should rephrase, maybe not entertain, activities.
Well, there's, again, almost 60% of this site is green space. So there's tons of space for people to do things. If you look at our project in Oak Creek, we have what are called, the garden courtyards, which are areas like this between buildings. These are roughly, I think, 90 feet on average between. They're deceivingly small on this plan, but they are big spaces. There are people outside in these spaces all the time at our existing communities. The other thing is each home has a substantial covered back porch and then extended patio beyond that porch. So there's a lot of private outdoor space as well that is in addition to your home. It's like your living space expanding outdoors, and the fact that it's both covered and then extends beyond that in a patio is meaningful.
Yeah, and I apologize. I think you're misunderstanding me. So when my kids were young, they referred to it as the red park and the green park, because that's was the colors of the parks they went to.
Yeah.
Cause they blew at Arboretum, but so, because that was the activity, right? You'd walk down and for us, it was, a block to get to that, right? And that's where the activity was because it was in the neighborhood. I think that's where some of the points are coming up here is, especially if that's gonna be a demographic that's gonna occupy a portion of this or a healthy portion of this. What activities with what you've got laid out here for that type of activity is gonna be available? Or is it the three block jaunt across Easy Street and down Madison to get to that park?
Yeah, I mean, so I would say our outdoor space is right next to these units. There's a lot of open space. I'm gonna bring this up just so we can see. So our development, this is the site of our development. It's all right here. So here you're at Easy. The park. Oh, how do I change this to share this screen now? Because it's not, I brought up Google Earth, but I think I have to stop sharing and reshare. Let me see if I can do this. Okay, so our single family homes will be right up here on Easy Street. This is the park. Directly across the street. So I don't think it's as far as you think it is. The ball field's here. Here's the tennis court. Access is going to be right off of Easy. So I imagine that this is a 1 block away. And we are, Lauren stepped out. Todd, maybe you remember, I think as part of what we agreed to do, I don't know if it's signalized, but we're enhancing the crosswalk across Easy to get.
RFIDs.
Yeah, we agreed to do something that was requested. So that will be an enhanced crosswalk that gets you across Easy, directly into this park. So I imagine this is where people will be going if they want active park space. Otherwise, there's 8.4 acres of open space within our community, right outside front doors, right outside back doors. A 2.14 acre space that we can program and activate if that was something that staff felt was necessary. So I think there's a lot of opportunities here for people to be right outside their front door, very close by and at park space or active green space.
Do we have plans to put an entrance into like a pedestrian entrance on Easy Street into that park?
That's where they put in the suggestion, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I think you're not on mic.
I think that the one I said to get rid of.
Yeah.
I think that was, if I look at this, I think that's where they were suggesting there's a path there, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Lauren
Lauren picked the wrong time to step out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think we had talked about those rapid flashing beacons at that crossing.
So if we needed to put like a couple parking stalls in there for people, because I sometimes would drive to the park that was a block away. I'm admitting my laziness
Yeah, I mean, there's.
publicly.
There's.
Yeah, but on the side of your development, like if we needed to, on Easy Street, if we needed in order, I mean, if you're saying they're gonna access this park, it's like possibly, but there's not a sidewalk on that side of Easy
Well,
Street.
they're gonna access it through here, I imagine, and then they'll come in here. Or
I think
or
they're gonna
Easy,
come
is there-
straight across,
Yeah.
right? Cause that's,
Okay.
that back. Would you be willing to participate in some of the cost for that?
I'm willing to talk about anything. I mean, we think that there is substantial open space in parkland, both within our community and already established across the street. And so if we have to help provide enhanced access, then yeah, we're absolutely happy to talk about that.
Okay.
Not trying to turn our back on park space.
Yeah.
Kristen, before you change the topic, I don't know if you're, but do we require I guess I'm not, where I think there's just my point of confusion maybe is I'm viewing this as a multifamily development and a single family development. And so do we require playgrounds at we don't require that at apartments or anything? Cause I guess one would argue on the flip side, 140 units in an apartment. And you think of, one of the stats we used to use in planning was the divorce rate. And that's the first place a parent with kids goes into, we're not forcing them to build a playground for 140 units. So this to me, I was wondering if there's a requirement in multifamily for a playground.
Well, I think multifamily is where you might see, but I think it depends, like, is the multifamily part of a single family development, like, so Kilkenny Farms has Steve Run Apartments in there, but they also had park space as part of that development. I mean, the developer just said they call their development single family.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the reasons why, again, the board absolutely has the flexibility to not do it. But when you look at a development of this nature, which is not the multifamily development that the developer has referenced, where it's the 3-story building that goes straight in the air, that like in lots of times when you see that, you don't have the ability to do park space because it's infill development. Think about the Hovde developments on Main Street. I mean, there's no place to put a park
We
there.
have a ton of multifamily in brand new greenfields. I mean, I don't want to dispute it. I guess all I'm saying is, to me, this is still one big parcel. They're taking on the responsibility of managing, you know, the homes. While yes, they're calling them single family, they're single family attached to each other. Like, to me, it's not a home. I guess I'm envisioning this as a multifamily rental property. It's not some family who's going to live in that same rental unit for 20 years. Maybe they will, but it's a multifamily development and a single family on this side. So I guess I just wanted to understand, from a requirement standpoint, we don't require in multifamily parks. I don't think there's anything that they're not meeting here.
We do require parks even for multifamily.
We do, okay.
An example currently that's doing an in lieu of fee is the FDG development, the Woodland Crest area, kind of behind the US Cellular area. They had to pay a payment in lieu of, in addition to the park impact fees for that project, because they didn't have any space for park.
Right. That's what I mean. That's not unprecedented then.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, we straddle both.
We've never, the Village of Wanakee, since I've been working here, has never approved a plat of this size without having parks in it, period. That's the issue. The board has the ability to do it,
Yeah.
but it's never happened.
Kind of maybe the question to Lauren, the park fee,
Yeah.
the park fee is determined on, the park in lieu fee is determined on acreage, correct?
Correct.
So for looking at this type of development versus your typical 3-story multifamily
Larger
community,
fee.
which may sit on 5 acres or 6 acres or 15 acres at most, this is a significant amount of fee in lieu that is going towards the current parks that are currently activated. We've tried to work with the Parks Department to a certain degree as far as how they would activate these spaces. And it seemed more of a nuisance as far as they wanted these to be recreational for basketball, for pickleball. So to have the pickleball and that in the backyards of our residents is a tough pill to swallow to that point. But just as far as the fee in lieu goes, it's a significant monetary amount.
Lauren, do you have that amount?
It's 346,000-ish.
All right. So I think that's a good point. Thank you, Anthony. Like, this is probably, despite the fact that you've never had a development this size that has done this, I would probably say the $350,000 payment fee in lieu is probably the largest fee in lieu that you have had as well. So that goes a long way to supporting existing parks. And it's not, and that was part of the discussion. It's not as though there's not a park across the street from here, right? I understand, we wouldn't even be proposing this if there wasn't parks nearby. But there's a park across the street, and then there's also the park, hello. There's also the park down here.
Yeah, I totally understand that. You know, the earlier plat that we saw did have the private park, which was more open space accessible to the whole community. For me, that's one of the big changes.
Yeah.
And so, and we talked about how you didn't want that activated with pickleball because people come, call and complain about, specifically it was pickleball.
Yeah.
And presumably they would if there was any other court sport happening late at night. And how other ways we could potentially be activating the phase. So for me, the change is that this is, it's private, but we would let the community use it, has become now it's private, surrounded by homes, which even to somebody who's pretty bold, and I tend to be pretty bold in those spaces, would be like, yeah, that's not a space that I'm entitled to go into or entitled or comfortable using. Where are we, Brian? What are our choices? So can we?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you have before you tonight recommendations on the plat and the rezoning. I know that we obviously always try to accommodate developers' timelines if we can. You know, the statutes allow us 90 days to, you know, the board has to act on the plat within 90 days. It looks to me like the date that on the plat is April 7th. So you definitely have some time from a statutory standpoint. Like I said, we're having a staff level meeting on the development agreement tomorrow. I would expect the development agreement to be on the agenda for the board meeting a week from Monday, although I have a hard, I mean, I think that's good. And my gut tells me in all likelihood, that's going to be a discussion, and then we're going to have to go back to the developer with comments. And then, you know, I don't see the development agreement being approved on Monday night is the way that I would say that. And so I'm not sure to the extent that then, you know, ultimately you have to have a development agreement here. I mean, when you look at the steps, this is you have a preliminary plat, then there's going to be a final plat, but that's usually pretty easy because the final plat just has to conform to the preliminary plat. This is going to be PUD zoning, so you have the GDP that ultimately needs to get approved, but then you have to have the SIP after that, like you saw tonight with the senior facility. So, I mean, I can't sit here and tell you know, from a statutory standpoint, you do not have to take action tonight if you don't want to, if you want to give it some more time. Particularly if you want to hear what the village board, you know, the village board is going to have comments on the development agreement. Again, the board could approve it on Monday night. My expectation is it probably will not be approved. I think what will happen is we'll have a closed session discussion, and then staff will be given direction by the board, and then we'll have to get back in touch with the developer on that.
And
Can I
so
ask
if we don't approve the plat tonight, then does that,
It would have to come back, the plat and the rezoning would come back to you at your next meeting.
does that prevent the developer conversation tomorrow, the development?
No, nothing that you do tonight will impact what we're doing tomorrow on the development agreement.
So one of the things
Can I ask
that let me just say my thing first, okay?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I'm looking at is I've got 2 people missing right now. So your vote probably is going to be 3-1-1 right now. Not that I'm counting votes because I don't think I'm allowed to do that, but that's also not a very confident vote for you to go into any sort of negotiation with the village board. So I think it might be in your best interest if we sit on this for a little while longer, think about kind of what we've seen tonight. And I don't mean that to discourage you, but to give you kind of a good solid decision going forward into the next phase of development. We are going to have a switch out of one board member. Joe, who usually sits here, is no longer going to be sitting on the board. He didn't run for reelection. So I'm inclined to say, let's just put a pin in this. Think about, I think Chris and I have some things to think about with regards to kind of, you know, how this is all working and a little bit different. But it's also not to say that I'm discouraging you. I do think the product that you're bringing forward is very much needed in the community. I think that a lot of the improvements in here and certainly the news on the Army Corps of Engineer is really encouraging news. So I don't want you to be discouraged that way, but I'm just seeing that we're not necessarily in agreement or in consensus. And so it could be just a really, you know, set you up for some more discussions that you probably don't want to have going forward. So again, now your question. Yeah.
So the development, I wasn't sure whether or not the development agreement draft that we had provided, I wasn't sure if that was, I wasn't anticipating that it was going in front of the board on Monday. I thought that would be a discussion and then that would come in front of the board at the same time as the SIP.
So I think what's going to, I mean, lots of times what happens, what we'll do is, in order to give you more and better feedback, we look at a draft agreement and then we go to the board and have a closed session discussion to say, look, this is what's been proposed at this point in time. What are your thoughts on it? And because, you know, it doesn't have to go to the board a week from Monday, but if we have a staff level discussion and then we come back to you with our comments, then maybe you say some of the stuff, yeah, that looks good. Some of the stuff, I don't know about that. And then we have another version that's prepared. We have no idea what the board's going to say. In other words, one of the earlier that you can get a draft board agreement or draft agreement before the board, I always believe that benefits the developer because that's the quickest way for you to get the feedback from the people who are actually the decision makers.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, if if Hayday's thought process is, yeah, we don't want that. We would prefer it if we had a little bit more time at the staff level to discuss that. Staff's probably going to say yes to that. I just give you the caveat that at the end of the day, it usually takes more than one meeting for a development agreement to get approval by the village board.
Yeah.
And that may just potentially pushes down the line when it ultimately is going to go to the board for action if it doesn't go on Monday night. But I would never sit here and say, if you guys don't want it to go, then as the attorney, I would say, fine, then don't take it.
No, I'm fine with it going. I wasn't anticipating it getting voted on.
Oh, no,
on
I
Monday
don't
night.
think it would be voted on.
Yeah, so it's just a discussion document that happens on Monday regardless. Like, we weren't anticipating a vote.
Yeah, no, correct.
Want it to go-
I apologize if I'm.
Okay, yeah, so, okay.
Yeah. And I realize usually we're pretty smooth sailing about this stuff, but I really do want to think like, are we setting a precedent as a village if we repeat Castle Creek again? And am I setting up, the board president 30 years from now for every 6 to 9 months getting a call from somebody complaining about why isn't there a park in my neighborhood? So, given that we've got this opportunity now to really think about, I agree with Brian. We've not done this before. I also see that we're right across the street from a pretty nice park. So give us some time to think about this and some time to work it out. I think you'll be in a better place overall.
Okay, is there anything other than the park that gives you trepidation?
I am of two minds with a private path versus not private path.
Yeah, and on
Around-
my side, that's
Yeah.
whatever you all decide, I'm fine with. So,
And I do think that we probably do, in order to be consistent with how we've developed in the past, the green space at the end of the road, usually we
that's fine.
put that in.
And
Those are
f-
small things.
For the record, the reason why we did that is it's a better turnaround not to have that.
Yeah.
Like, that is going to be shorter than 150 feet, so it's fine, but
Yeah.
if it's wanted, then that's,
And there's always some oddness with like just
yeah.
butt ending a road to two.
And it may be the case that like Aaron and Bill talked to you guys about that, and there may be a reason why from a traffic standpoint that they wanted that to be green space. So I just wanted to raise it as
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it was wrong the way that it was put there.
It was it's better not to have that dead end was the thought, and
Yeah.
there isn't any time frame of when it's going to be developed to our east. So no one cared. It seemed to make sense. But if it's wanted, we have again, the two other things you brought up, happy to pave that, happy for the paths to be asphalt or public or private.
Yeah.
Those are not game changer decisions for us. But if this does need to be a public park, it probably changes something significantly.
Yeah. And I agree. I know we're going to be on the hook as a village for that road extension, and I don't know how we're going to.
I would agree. That one I
Yeah.
wanted to bring up too,
Yeah.
I guess the one, when would you know who owns the wetland? Cause I'm glad you brought it up, Chris. I honestly forgot. I didn't think that was part of this plat.
It's not. That's the thing, is it's not.
But will you be the owner? I guess maybe who will be the owner then? And are they the ones selling you? I mean, I guess I'd love to think that piece out I kind of forgot about, because you are effectively.
Stranding.
Yeah, I mean, we know it's never going to be
Text
developed,
plat.
but the road still needs to be carried out. I'd almost say, I mean, we all know how much we hear about it back by my neighborhood too, where the town, that strip between the town from Ellen Brands to how terrible and they don't maintain it. I guess, and I know this is different because it's still a rural urban road, or village road. No one will ever develop that, right? Because it's a wetland and maybe you're not buying it, but if you were to buy it, then I think we would require it for sure. So that's where I think it's a little tricky to me, and I'm glad you brought that up. That is the one thing I was gonna add there or understanding what the expense is to stretch that all the way to the corner and what we'd be eating in that regard. And I hate to put it on you, but if we're doing the math on what the return is for bringing in this property of what the increased tax value is going to be, how long will it take us to make up that road or something like that, we should just understand. Which I know is not necessarily fun
If I had a Tums, I would give you a Tums right now. So yeah, we're going to do the heartburn. Yeah. Chris?
I just want to make sure I wrote it down right. Did you say that right now in your subdivisions, 10% have students or
Ten-
kids?
Yeah, about 10% is school age. Yeah, correct.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So again, there are a lot of things in here that are really great, and we're, going over the parts that are going to give us sleepless nights if we don't get them worked out before we say yes.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So what's process from here then? Am I coming back on Monday next week?
Well, and I may have created this, so the plan commission wouldn't meet again on the GDP and the preliminary plat until the meeting in May, which is what, May 12th, maybe?
I think it's May 12th.
Next Monday night would be the village board. That's where, subject to, you guys being okay with it, I think our thought process would be at a staff level, we would take not the rezoning and not the plat, but we would take the development agreement to the board, most likely just for a closed session discussion. So I don't, you guys could come if you want, but I don't think that there would be questions at that point by the board members for the developer. It'd be a little too early in the development agreement discussions, I think, for the board members to have questions of you all.
Okay, and then I would come back here in approximately a month for some sort, but like whatever feedback, when would I get feedback? Because I need feedback in order to revise the GDP. If that's the direction I'm going, I have to get that to Lauren in enough time and.
Pardon? After Monday? Yeah. So, yeah, we'll have closed session and there'll be items in the developer's agreement that'll pertain to this that we'll be able to discuss in closed session and.
Okay, so relatively soon we would get feedback and be able, so we would be able to be back here in a month.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lauren, can I ask a quick question?
So I'm Ryan with Heyday, Josh's partner. So I know we've looked at 10 site plan concepts. Is there a sense if a park is absolutely required, and I think we've put on the table here the logic of why we did it, and we're willing to even contribute more above the fee in lieu to create connectivity to the park to the south, that might not be a viable option, but we're up here saying that we're willing to do that, right? But option B is if it has to be a park, right? Every unit we lose, compromises potentially the financing of the project. So my question would be, even if we were paying a fee in lieu, is there a minimum size that we're looking for to accommodate? Is there some sort of standard in this situation where we're still paying the fee based on the calculation, but if I have to give up units on that plan to make this thing work, I have to, run that math of.
Yeah, so
Here I'm going with it.
I think you're asking, can it be prorated based off of a certain size of the park that you add that's a public park? Is that your question?
Because hypothetically, if we lose units and let's say
Yeah.
2-acre park, right, that's accessible to that's not going to meet the minimum requirements. So we're still going to have to pay a fee.
Yep.
But is there flexibility in that? Because what I'm hearing is we're setting a precedent, right?
Right.
But I think the only thing I would say in that precedent is we're trying to come up with creative solutions, not to kill the deal, give you guys everything you want. And whether that's funding, access to the south, parking spots, the crossing signal, we're open to that, or a minimum park size with a fee that's prorated.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think the ordinance in particular talks about prorating, but it is something I think I talked with maybe Anthony about, and I think that is something we could work through if you can't meet the park requirement, but somewhere in the middle there, and then we can prorate
Sure.
the rest of the fee.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I just wanted that for this body to understand that, because that could be an option, right? And
Yep.
we will, based on these comments, explore that too. I think we're going to exhaust every option as we've done with all the site
Yeah.
plan
And I
concepts.
guess I'll caveat that the village board ultimately has to approve
Sure, of course.
payment in lieu of, but
Yeah.
I think that's a possible option.
Okay. So yeah, what I'm just saying is what would that minimum be? And then it would be a prorated fee, potentially to be considered. So, and we'll explore that after we get the comments back. So, all right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for your time tonight. All right. With that, we are on to Joint Plan Commission update. So,
Meeting was canceled.
all right.
Motion to adjourn.
Update.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That was not nearly as a resounding aye as I thought it would be.